Dan. Do these lights belong to visitors from outer space? Hundreds of people across the valley think it's a distinct possibility. Good evening, I'm Mark Bailey.
And I'm Robin Sewell. Thanks for joining us. We start tonight with those strange dots of light that were the talk of the town. Tonight, News 15's Paul Johnsich is with a group of people who saw the lights last night, and they say they've seen similar patterns before, Paul?
Right, Robin and Mark. The military says the lights over Arizona last night were flares, but the people who saw the lights last night say they couldn't have been flares. The lights were too bright. They were in the sky too long. They say that this was something else. In fact, these people are waiting here to see if the lights return. About a dozen people have come to this lonely patch of desert to look for UFOs. Their telescopes and cameras are fixed towards the sky while they wait for the strange lights to return.
Last night I seen something extraordinary.
Tom King has been watching the skies over Phoenix since October of 1995. Last night he saw something he cannot explain. He shot this videotape of 2 bright lights that turned into 3 bright lights that turned into 4 bright lights. It's something UFO enthusiasts are calling a major sighting.
These lights were sitting stationary. They just came on in place. They lined up in a formation. They did not look like...
Yeah, that was one major motherfucking sighting, all right.
Red alert!
Hell yeah. Happy Friday, everyone. I'm Tom King. This is the 4K Skywatching podcast, episode number 59. And it's also the 39th anniversary of what's known as the Phoenix Lights. So congratulations for watching, for living. If you were around back then, it's just nice to be around. And tonight's going to be a celebration of that event. And I'm happy to have a special guest today. He's a supporter of the channel. You might know him as Uncle Dave's Kitchen. Dave Parker is here with us, and we're going to discuss what happened that night, how that changed his life. You're going to be able to ask him questions. We're going to be able to watch some videos together with him. So we're going to have a Phoenix Lights Skywatch party tonight. With a couple of witnesses, myself at the 10 o'clock and Dave with 8:30. And we have interesting video tonight that has never been seen before. We have a simulation of what it would look like from taking off from Luke Air Force Base in a F-15 and then heading into downtown at night. So I have a really cool 4K simulation that I did of that. To show you kind of, it'll help kind of fit some of the pieces of the puzzle together. So without any further ado, let me bring in Dave Parker. He's just a wonderful man. You'll see he's not a kind of an asshole like me. He's nothing like me at all. He's got all my good qualities and kind of none of my bad. He's a hospice nurse. He's still doing this. He's got an amazing tale to tell, and I just can't wait to bring him in. This is a long time coming. I should have did this a year ago, and he just told me, a health story. We're lucky to have him here. We're very lucky to have Dave Parker at 4K Skywatching Studio tonight. Dave, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you for having me on, Tom. It's great to be here. And what an incredible event that you and I both shared 29 years ago tonight.
Yeah. It really hasn't kicked in because, or really sunk in. We could talk about what we were doing before because I think a lot of people who saw something from that night, they were different people after that. There was kind of like the version of them before and then the version of them afterwards, because depending on where you were and what you saw, it opened a new reality to a lot of people that I don't know how many people I talked to that saw the 8:30 event weren't believers at all. And after that, they're like, these are spaceships, and their whole world is way different.
It's interesting because I wear my Phoenix Flights T-shirt a lot, and so I go to Fry's or I go out shopping, and people stop me. They recognize it and stop. They say, "Oh, I remember that. My neighbor saw that, or my grandpa saw that. It went right by their house." And strangers come up to me almost every single time when I go out shopping. Someone has a story to tell about this, or they knew someone, or my grandma was talking about this, or we were just talking about it last week or at a family function. It's still a part of Arizona or at least Phoenix history. And when you go to the Historical Society over in Scottsdale, Tempe, over there, they've got that, it's like 10, 15, 20 feet, that section, that little tunnel you go through where it gets nice and dark. And then there's the Phoenix Lights replica right above you, lit up. Have you seen that?
Is that at the MUFON building, or where the MUFON had their stuff?
Where the event is?
Yeah. Last time I was there, I walked through that. It was pretty interesting to see that. Who has anything like that? Us and Roswell.
Yeah, and it's a permanent display. I mean, by the Historical Society themselves. It's not like a MUFON thing. I mean, it's actually there forever by the state of Arizona. I mean, it's such a part of our history now. I mean, we're kind of like a little mini Roswell here because of the Phoenix Lights. And it's in the newspaper all the time. And I think it's because people like you and the videos and people want to hear about it. And the mass sighting, so many people saw it. And it's like it wanted itself to be seen. And I saw both versions. I saw the 8 o'clock and the 10 o'clock. By the time 10 o'clock, I was home. And of course, I saw it from a distance. 8 o'clock, I saw it by a couple feet. So, my experience was different, than other people. But, I have two different coworkers that also saw it. And they had incredible stories. I've been trying to get them to come public, or at least to tell their story anonymously. Because one of them especially has some really valuable information to share that I think would be historically kind of technologically a incredible bit of information that kind of corroborates part of my story too. So
you put this in your pocket and just start going, hey, remember that one time? I mean, if you don't have the spy cameras or whatever that I got, then they use the next best thing.
Yeah, the camera and a couple of vodka stingers and get him going.
Yeah. Usually a little bit of alcohol gets people a little bit relaxed to start talking. But you're right. Like when I go to South Mountain and I take I was out there once and I had this thermal scope
Uh-huh.
and it had a TV screen next to it, and it looked odd because it's home built. And I'm up there testing this thermal, and somebody goes, "What are you doing with that?" Because it's like, "What do you think I'm creeping on people with this?" And I'm looking up. I said, "I'm looking for the aliens." And he's like, "Oh yeah, I don't even get a warm up. Like, do you believe in UFOs or anything like that? Or UFO?" I go straight for the A word, man. And I'm like, "I'm looking for the aliens." And then the reaction of them is always not shock. It's, "Oh, cool. Yeah, I've seen them too." And then the people with them will start telling a story. And you're right. If you have more than 10 people and they're locals
Uh-huh.
and not tourists, one of them has something to do with tonight. They
Yes.
seen something.
That's absolutely.
So
Go
go
ahead.
ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And especially Arizona. And I don't know if Arizona is necessarily a hot spot for them, though it seems to be. But you know what? We don't have all those pesky trees that everyone else does that blocks the view. And so maybe we can see things better. And we don't have all those clouds and we don't have all that bad weather. So, visibility here is incredible. And then maybe there is something going on here that they want to come to. So I think we're just a great spot to look at the sky. Um,
Well, I was going through the National UFO Reporting Center last night, and I was looking at earlier reports, and there was something, and there's stuff that'll pop up. Like, you could put a report in now back in 1995, right? So I'd looked through all this stuff, but I had not seen the UFO crash, right? So I'm looking through this, like, what UFO crash? And there's a report of somebody from 1996 that saw an egg-shaped object that crashed, and they hiked or something. I was just it's on the. We might be able, if we go real long, we'll look at this later. But they talked about a crash of an egg-shaped object, and when they finally got there, oddly enough, was a Jeep and a helicopter. So there was a Jake Barber type dude. If this happened, so in a way, when I talk about this story, a lot with podcasts, I get it every time. I can't do a podcast and talk about skywatching without talking about the Phoenix Lights first. And I kind of wondered, who did they piss off to just bring in these UFOs this into your face? It was almost like a reaction, but it's like, what caused that reaction? So sometimes I wonder, the aliens must have pissed off the government, maybe pissed them off or something.
who knows what's some? And
Who knows?
in 1977, just as I was moving out to Arizona from back east, some friends of mine said, you want to go see a alien crash site. And I said, well, sure, why not? And I thought I was going to die. They took me way out in the desert and up a mountain, and it was the Kingman crash site, and that was like early 1950s. Well, the natives that actually saw the crash site, their sons were our tour guide, so they knew exactly where the site was. And so, they took us up to the site, and you could see where something had happened. I did, I couldn't tell much what it was. I just went for a hike because I was new in Arizona or something. I wished I paid more attention and really took pictures. So I didn't see much. But evidently, people talk about one crash site, but evidently I think it was like 5 or 6 actually crashed per their fathers. There was like 2 of them's fathers saw that. One of them crashed farther south, and I think 5 of them crashed there in Kingman, and then they took them all back like up towards Vegas, over the Hoover Dam. Military people came and got them and took them away. But so that was my first thing, anything about UFOs.
Well, yeah, tell us about your background. Where are you from? Did you believe in UFOs? At what point did you start believing in UFOs, or were you a skeptic?
Yeah, I'm from Ohio, and a small little. I was raised out in the country with no indoor plumbing, so out in the middle of nowhere. And finally, all my friends moved out to Arizona, and I got lonesome. So I came out to Arizona too to be with my friends. And I was never into UFOs much, but My dad had been in the Air Force from the 1940s into the early 1950s. And at night, he and my mom would talk about what he had seen at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. I was born right outside of Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Xenia, Ohio, just like a dozen miles away. And my parents had lived there to be close to Wright-Patterson because my dad was in, a work there. And he would talk about the flying saucers and the aliens and the hangar where they were and how the room was built.
Really?
So
Your dad did that?
my dad did, talking to my mom, and my brother and I would listen. He never told us, but he would talk about that to my mom, and it
Wow.
bothered him. He was like tormented by all of this. And
Wait, okay, hold on. This beats all my dad's fishing stories. So your dad comes home from work and then he has to tell someone, right?
Yes.
He probably can't, like, being bottled up. The only one you can really tell is your wife, and you're probably not
Right.
supposed to because of the classification
Right.
rules and whatnot. And then he doesn't even think of the kids, thinking, oh, they won't remember. So he's what year about would this be? You said the 50s?
Yeah, he was in the Air Force. Well, it was Army Air Force originally because he went into the Air Force around 1946. And then it became Air Force like in 47. It was Army Air Force then changed to Army and then Air Force around 47. And then he was in the Air Force till like 52, 53, something like that, early 1950s. And then, he went civilian after that. So I was born in 54. So I would hear this starting in the early 60s. I remember this. And it would always be late at night when we were supposed to be in bed. My dad had a hearing problem. So, he could talk loud and think that he was quiet. And my brother and I would, eavesdrop. It's just like, oh my God, what's this? And back then it wasn't UFO. It was like flying saucers or, whatever. So we would listen. And it was like, what's it? This is kind of cool. And this went on a lot. It was tormenting him. And because he didn't just talk about it now and then, never in front of us, except once. And this is a neat story. So we would hear it, but we would never ask him anything about it because we could tell this is something, wasn't meant for our ears. And plus, we didn't want to warn him that we're listening because we wanted to hear more. You don't want to silence.
What type of stuff was he saying?
It was about what I really remember was where it was being hidden, and it was at Wright-Patterson at the Air Force Base. And at the time we lived in Xenia, we lived in Dayton, so we're right around the corner from there. So we stayed there. So it described the bodies, and especially the room, and it was built so that when you walked into the hangar, you didn't notice that there was missing space. It looked like it was an empty hangar, but actually the way it was designed, that there was space hidden, and that's where they kept and I'll get into this other thing that he let slip. And that's where they kept the craft and the bodies and things. So one thing, and also every now and then, The Day the Earth Stood Still would come on TV, and he made sure that everybody shut up. We're watching this movie, and he would just be glued to the TV when that was on. I mean, he was almost in tears. It meant so much to him, and I think that touched something with him and whatever went on with him in the Air Force and whatever it is that maybe he had seen at Wright-Patts. And did he go out west? I know he was in New Mexico because now and then he mentioned it in his younger days. So was he at Roswell? I don't know. And I wish I knew about this stuff. I mean, he died before all the Roswell stuff kind of resurfaced around 1980. That's when it kind of became popular again. And he was gone. And, if I knew about it then, I probably would have approached him and, what went on. But about 1965, we were driving down the road and we were driving through or around Wright-Patt. and there was a chain link fence, and there off at a distance was one of the hangars. And I'm in the back seat. I remember it was 65 because I'm reading a comic book. And I remember the comic book, and I looked it up online, and it came out in 65. My dad's driving, mom's in the front seat. And my dad pointed out, slowed down and pointed out to the hangar. And he says, "That's the hangar. That's where we stored the flying saucers, and that's where the bodies are." And he started talking and telling the story again. He would tell it over and over and over. And then I spoke up and I said, "I want to see the flying saucer. I want to see the alien bodies." And he didn't realize or forgot I was in the back seat. And he changed his story. He says, only special people get to see that. Let's go get ice cream. And he quickly changed the story. And,
Do you remember in the context of when he would talk about it, would he talk about it because people are trying to figure out how many of these are in the possession of the U.S. Would he talking about the UFO or a UFO, or would he talk about plural, like UFOs, like they had more than one? Because the rumor is most of the stuff goes there until it goes into an overflow area. So they would have the Roswell crash. They'd probably have whatever crash from, I think Kingman happened probably later. So that wouldn't be there until later, but everything would end up there at some point.
I'm feeling that it was a plural, but I don't recall. I don't want to say for sure, but it sounded like, I remember like bodies.
Yeah.
So that was plural at least. And
usually, back at that time, there was talk that they had these bodies in cryogenic storage, and they had some of the UFOs. The Aztec crash was, I think, there, the Roswell one, and then maybe the magenta one that we're just finding out from Italy could have been stored there. I don't know. I don't know if they'd store all their so-called eggs in one basket and keep them all in one spot, or would you?
Well, of course,
a lot of this stuff ended up in New Mexico later for study.
Well, this was back when he was in the Air Force, so this would have been 40s and 50s, early 50s. So I wonder, was it still there later? I don't know. This bothered him so much. He talked about this so much. And every now and then, if he and I were together or outside or doing something, he would get real silent. And I could tell something's coming up. And he would ask me, "Do you believe in flying saucers?" And out of the blue, he would ask me, and I'd say, "Well, sure, or I don't know, or what do you think?" And he would just freeze and say, "Oh, they're out there." And that's all he would ever say. And I could tell now, oh my gosh, I wish I would have asked questions. It was like he wanted me to take. I was just a kid. I was just a little kid.
What about, you said your brothers? Did you guys ever still talk and say, try to piece together what happened back then?
And he died a long time ago. I'm the last one for many. I missed opportunities. And my mom, my mom lived later. I wished I would have asked her. I just didn't think of it. I guess I'm not a researcher like you, but boy, I wish, what an opportunity. And it was interesting because his dad saw one and was in the newspaper in 1919. And he would every time we went to see my grandfather, we would pull out the scrapbook and have his dad tell us a story about his UFO sighting. He was a high school principal in northern Ohio. I think it was called Danville, Ohio, something around there. And he saw a cigar-shaped object floating just over treetops, just over rooftops, and then it would hover, and then it zipped off. And he reported it into the newspaper, and then he cut the clipping out and had it in his scrapbook. And every time we went to his house, he would talk about it. 1919. So that was okay to talk about, but not my dad's.
A question from Dan Starkey. Did your dad ever say the word E-band? That was supposedly the name of an ET that they had kept.
I never heard that. Of course, I'm hearing through a wall too.
Yeah. I heard a lot of stuff through the wall, but wasn't no alien talk. But do you have kids? Because this almost sounds like a family affair.
Well, and that's another thing, because that would have been, I mean, I would be, or my kids would have, my kids died young, which is why I became a
Jesus
hospice
Christ.
nurse. So, so it skipped that generation and then hit me. So who knows what they would have experienced.
Well,
Yeah.
let's talk about what were you doing 29 years ago tonight?
Okay. Well, I was working in East Mesa. I was about Broadway and Higley. And I was working at a 10-bed adult hospice inpatient unit. And I remember, because I make notes. I keep my notes. And in fact, I still have my original notes from 29 years ago when I documented what I saw on the Phoenix lights. So that way I know my memory is accurate because I have everything written down. So nothing changed over the years. And at the time, Route 60 coming into Phoenix, it was like 25, 29 miles to get home. It was quite a drive. It was under construction for like 10 years, forever. They were widening it. And then once they got it widened, then they widened it again. So, uh, yeah. So it was dirt in 29 years ago, but still, for me to drive all the way into Phoenix, a lot of people took the side roads and hit all the red lights. But to go all that way, so I couldn't do it. So I just went ahead and drove Route 60 all the way in, and you just had to go very, very slow. Well, the night nurse was late, so I didn't get out on time. I should have got out at 7:30. So I got out a little bit later, which put me at the exact place I should have been to see what I saw. So I'm getting on 60 and I'm heading west and going very slow. And every time I came to an overpass, I had to exit, go over the overpass, and then get back on 60. So by the time I'm into about Scottsdale, Tempe, and I forget what exit it is because everything was just torn up. And I'm getting on the overpass, and there's this huge mound of construction debris. And somehow I probably was supposed to have driven around it, but I drove up over this mound of construction debris. And I'm almost parallel now with the freeway streetlight. And freeway streetlights are much taller than like neighborhood streetlights, and they're much brighter. So there's one probably about 2 feet over my head. It was kind of farther back and lower than where I was. But my elevation is much higher than where I should have been on the overpass. And in fact, I could look down and see the roof of nearby buildings and housetops. So that's kind of the elevation I was. And as I'm getting ready to try to figure out how to, get back down to get back onto Route 60, I look out of the window and there's this massive boomerang shaped lit object coming towards me. You can see where I am here. And it's nearly parallel to where I am. And I can see the shape of it and the bottom glowing because the ambient light of Phoenix still has that light glow shining up on the bottom. I could clearly see the outline. And it was boomerang shaped and at the angle of a banana. So it was slightly bent and kind of slightly came to a point on either side. And there was like dripping orange light. And there was at least 5 of them coming towards me. It was like, it looked like flames. It looked like orange dripping candy from the bottom.
You remember it as orange?
Orange, yeah. And a
Do you
little bit of
remember
yellow.
do you remember, was the boomerang, did you ever see the top? Was was it thick, or do you think it was thin, or
It
wide?
left,
What would your dimensions be?
as it left, I saw like a dark shadow over it. I mean, I couldn't see light above it, maybe almost like a quarter of a mile over it as it went down towards Chandler afterwards. And that could be just because of the way the lights were. It, kind of blocking out the ambient glow of Chandler. But I couldn't really see anything but the bottom of the craft.
So you're definitely in the it's one object and not five individual object camp, because there's a lot of debate on that.
Right. At least where I saw it, it was one single craft. And I heard other people say, like up north, that it broke into pieces and then rejoined. I didn't see that at all. And other people say they saw it move from a boomerang and form into a triangle. I didn't see that. It stayed a boomerang where I saw it from the whole time. And it kind of, maybe when it got down into Chandler, it kind of looked like maybe it did kind of fold a little bit, because it looked like a mile wide craft where I saw it. It was huge. It was massive. It looked like a city coming towards me. And with the glow of Phoenix shining on the bottom, and it wasn't like bright, but I could clearly see the outline of it. It looked like a 1950s ashtray. They were big into boomerang shapes back then, that mid-century modern kind of art type stuff. It looked like a piece of 1950s sculpture. And it was just kind of just meandering and coming towards me. I'm thinking, what the heck is this? Is it a float? Is it a balloon? I mean, it was massive, but it was still probably, 10 miles away from me. It was coming in my direction. So I'm thinking, I'm not going to miss this. So I slammed on my brakes, and I had already had my brights on. And I get in the front of my truck, and I have the street light, the big street light behind me shining. So I have a lot of illumination on me and shining out, and I'm just sitting there waiting for it to come. And in my mind, I keep thinking, please do not change your directory. I mean, keep coming this way. I mean, I want to see what this thing is. And it's coming closer and closer and closer. And as it was coming closer, I could tell that the stuff, that bright orange and a little bit of yellow, getting closer and closer and closer. It's kind of moving. And then it looked like lava. And as it came up over my head, that's exactly what it looked like. It looked like a thick, viscous lava. I've never seen lava before, but I've seen it on TV. Like a lava lamp that's upside down. It looked like it was dripping down and would form a huge glob, maybe 2 or 3 feet, and some of it would look like 5 or 6 feet, maybe 8 feet, like a big, fat globe of like lava, bright orange, like orange crush.
How big? Let me just do a check. Is the audience at home, is my audio good? They were saying the audio had crapped out, but it looks good from here. So you're saying these individual lights, and there were like 5 of them, were 5 to 8 feet?
The wad of lava, I mean, some of it was just strings, and some of it would form into great big, like, drops, big drops. Some of it would be a couple feet wide. Some of it would be like 6 to 8 feet wide. And it would stop, and where it would drip down, it would turn yellow. And when I was a kid on the farm, we used to pull taffy. I mean, didn't have anything else to do. And you pull taffy, and when you pulled it and where it stretched, the color would change. And that's what this stuff would do. Like in a lava lamp, when it would stretch out, the color changes. And this stuff, the color changed. And then when it would thicken up, it would turn orange. And where it would stretch out, it would turn yellow. And that's when I hear people talk about the colors. They'll say it's like an orange and a yellow swirl. Oh, that's exactly where I could see when you're looking up at it. But this thing was so low, and I'm on a hill. I'm seeing the craft parallel. I'm looking up at it a bit, but mostly I'm looking at it sideways. So when it did come up over my head, I had to look directly up to see the tip of the left wing. But to see the rest of the craft, I didn't even have to lift my head. all I had to do was just raise my eyes, and the rest of it was sideways. So I'm seeing most of the craft horizontally. Versus
Did you ever think the lava type of stuff might fall and hit you? Was that
Yes.
ever a consideration? Like, oh shit, this just dripping fire? Or
Yeah.
what when you first saw it, what were your initial thoughts that crossed your mind? Like,
Well, when
what
I
are you
saw it
looking
from a
at?
distance, I mean, it was like, this is fun. This is exciting. I can't wait for it to get closer. But the closer it got, when I saw this stuff, it did look hot. And I'm thinking, I'm going to get burned. Should I get in my truck? Should I get behind the truck? Is the gas tank going to blow up? What should I
Yeah.
do? But luckily, the tip of the wing, and then close to where the nearest light, whatever this stuff was dripping down, there was quite a distance there. If the craft had fallen to the ground, I would take like 2 steps and I could have kicked the tip of the left wing. So it was like pretty much right over my head. So the nearest light was still farther in. But still, it was close enough that if that was truly lava, I would have felt the heat. But there was absolutely no heat. And it didn't make any wind. It didn't blow any dust in my eyes. There was no odor. There was
How
no
fast
sound.
was it going?
I mean,
Just like-
probably 35 miles.
Yeah.
And I mean, it just coasted.
Weird.
It was just drifting right over.
So the lava, the orangish, reddish lava stuff was about the size of a small car.
Yeah,
and there were 5 of those.
There were 5 coming towards me, but when I saw it sideways, I can remember 7. So I don't know if 2 more opened
weird.
up, or if just maybe it was an optical thing, but it looked like there were 7 when I'm seeing it sideways. So maybe
7.
2 of them weren't fired up or something.
That makes more sense, because like when you look at, and I'm sure you've poured over eyewitness accounts like I have, and some people reported 5 lights, some reported 7, some reported that there was a light behind it they called the trailing light that followed this group. There were other people that reported that the front light moved to the back and one of the back lights moved to the front.
Wow.
So the lights had switched places. And I've studied the hell out of these boomerangs worldwide, collecting these videos, the credible ones that I can. And from other events, we can clearly see that these objects will be 2 to 3 of them will join up and become one object, and they'll trade places in some of these videos, or they will split up in one. So the whole thing, when you're describing as a close encounter, is what you had, less than 500 feet, right? What you're describing makes more sense of how these objects split into different pieces and grow, because it's not really, say, a solid physical object. It sounds like we're dealing with some type of what would it be? Plasma, intelligent plasma that can form into other pieces of plasma. Hell, it could probably, if it's the size of the car, split up into thousands of small pieces that are flying around.
I mean, and what was the purpose of the lava? I don't know. If it's propulsion, it's not the propulsion that we know, because it wasn't pushing off, it wasn't pushing off energy. And as it came over my head, I mean, everything was orange. The ground was orange. I was orange. I'm sure my truck was orange, because I'm holding my hands up and doing this, because everything is orange. And it was a deep orange. And on UFO Witness, I think you and I are both on the same episode, they have an actor portraying me, and they almost have the orange right. But it was even a deeper orange, because they have that guy doing what I was doing, looking at my arms and my hands. And it's like, oh my God, I'm totally orange. And it was interesting at that moment when the craft is over me and I'm looking at my arms, I cannot hear my motor. And I'm right in front of my truck. So the craft made no sound. And this also happened to a coworker of mine, because the craft went from behind his car and over his head. And then he saw it after it passed over him. And he was listening to the radio. He was stopped at a red light in North Phoenix. And he was listening to the car next to him to the radio. And everything went silent, including the radio. And then he could hear, and then he saw the craft. So does the craft not make sound, or does it mute sound? Because he was in total silence and didn't realize the craft was over him at that time. So
do you remember seeing were you tunnel visioned on this? Because when I was filming the 10 p.m. thing, all I was doing was focusing my balance and looking through that camera going, you came here to record stuff, you better be damn recording and leave.
Yeah.
That was my purpose and job there. I knew there was a party of people around me. There's about 8 other people with us on this balcony, but I heard them, and I was giving them a few instructions, but I had tunnel vision, right? Did you have that, or we're looking at this, or did you look around at the other cars on 60 and going, are you guys seeing this? What the fuck? I mean, what was your reaction?
After it was over, I looked around. Of course, I was the only fool to go down Route 60. And of course, I had just pulled off, so I'm on the overpass, and then I'm on this hill. There was no one else around because I wanted someone else to share this with. But I was out there by myself. But as the craft went over my head, and again, I'm looking up to see the tip of it, and the tip was rounded horizontally and slightly rounded vertically. So when people do the drawing, they make it look like a point, and it was rounded, but I couldn't see up how far. And the whole bottom of the craft, it was like a gunmetal gray. It was about 20% reflective, about 80% matte finish, and there was no seams, there was no bolts, there was no nuts, there was no screws. It was a solid piece of material that looked like metal. I don't know what it was, but it was so close. I felt confident I could hit it with a rock. And I'm on this hill of construction debris. And I looked down quickly, think about, I'm going to pick up a rock and hit it. I wonder, is it paper? Is it metal? Is it going to ping? What's going to happen? And then I just got a feeling, that's not a good idea. So I didn't do that. But the whole bottom of the craft was covered in oval-shaped indentations, like the bowl of a spoon. And they were probably about maybe 6 to 8 feet long. And they went...
Those indentations were about 6 to 8 feet? So
8
they were
feet
about the size of the lights, but okay, that gives an artist listening to this good things to put on a prompt.
Right.
Hint, audience. And if the audience has questions, please put them in all caps, and then I'll feed them to David. So continue, please.
And they went lengthwise from the tip all the way as far as I could see towards the middle, because I had light maybe for 50 to 100 feet, and I could clearly see that much of the bottom of the craft. And then it was dark, but they didn't go in rows, but it was just constant. It was just thousands and thousands of oval-shaped indentations, the entire bottom. And the nearest opening that the lava stuff that dripped out of. Uh-oh. Hello. Am I there? Can you hear me? Test, test, test. And anybody hear me?
Can you guys hear David home?
Hello.
Hold on. I got to reconnect something. So continue, Dave.
Okay.
And I can't hear you, but the sound is going good. I got to get some new headsets in. So continue.
So anyway, the nearest opening where the lava was dripping out of. So this is an opening. It's not like a light bulb in the bottom of the craft. It's an opening. And inside the opening, I'm going to guess maybe it was 50 feet wide. It's just a guess, because it was farther inward and probably round. But since I'm looking at the bottom of the craft sideways, like this, it looks oval to me because I'm not underneath it. And probably up about this far, maybe 10, 10 inches inside the opening, there was a silver lining inside of it, and it probably was just a couple inches thick. And from that inner lining is where this liquid lava stuff dripped down. And it would drip down, it would stretch, it would slow down, it would form drips, stop, and go back up. And then more would drip down, just like a lava lamp, exactly like a lava lamp. And what its purpose was, I don't know. Someone else suggested that maybe this was an orb nursery, that it's in the process of forming orbs to send off and do some sort of scouting work. I mean, I don't know. I didn't see any shoot off. And someone else asked me not too long ago, did you go back and see if any of it hit the ground? And I wish someone would have said something back then, because I would have gone look, and I didn't think anything of it. And so I don't know. Are you back on there, Tom? Can you hear me? You missed the best part. Can you hear Tom? I hope everybody can hear. I can't read the comments. Hello, testing. You sure it's you and not me? How's that? Okay, is everybody else hearing me? I can change my microphone if you'd like. Okay. Okay. So anyway, it was an absolutely solid piece of machinery. Can you hear me? Now I can't hear you.
Okay, we should be good.
There you are. Now I hear you. So this was not stray lights. This was not flares. This was not a random lights floating down by parachute. It was a guided piece of machinery, piloted by somebody, manufactured by somebody from somewhere, and it was going from one place to another, and I don't know who.
Let's check out your video that you gave me. So we'll review that.
Okay. The right after it passed, it was trailed by, it looked like almost like flags, rainbow flags that were glowing of different strands of different colors. It actually looked like something from Disneyland. It was very pretty. And it was surrounded by a yellow light, top and bottom. And then after it passed, and I looked at it from behind, it was surrounded by a yellow light. And this is a CGI from a guy up in Prescott that unfortunately died before I got to meet, because I'd like to have talked to him about it. And as far as I know, only he and I saw this. And why others didn't see it, because it was so
starting from
obvious,
just south
and
of
it
Las
was so
Vegas
bright.
and proceeding to the
I'm
Mexican border.
lost. I was close to it, and he was below
Objects
it.
from this event
I
passed
don't know.
through the
Maybe
Phoenix
the
metropolitan
craft
area
just
between
turns
8
on
and
and
8:50
off at
p.m.
certain
headed
times
south
or
towards
whatever.
Tucson.
But he did a
Later
CGI
sightings
that
around
was
10 p.m.
almost
indicate the
exactly
unknown
what I
objects
saw.
were retracing their course back towards
Which
Nevada.
type of
While
out of
over
all the
600
images in
witnesses
CGI,
gave
is there
reports to City
anything that
Councilman Francis
you were kind of
Barwood,
saying
And reports
comes
numbering
very
in the
close to what you
thousands
saw?
were phoned into
About
police,
4
the
minutes.
FAA, and
The
military bases.
the flag, the multiple,
Other
the
than a few
mist
grainy
behind the
examples,
craft.
no
That's what I
video or
saw.
photos exist
He
of these
has
reports.
the lights.
One reason is
look
that witnesses
different.
report
Them
being
definitely
transfixed
look
by the
different than
sight.
what I saw.
Another
But
is
he's
that,
got the
for the most
color
part,
darn close.
they were brief.
And if you look at the way he did the bottom of the craft, there's some like
At 10
movement in the
p.m.,
bottom of
a
the
series
craft.
of
It's
lights
almost
appeared in
like
the sky
he
south of
partially
Phoenix.
saw the oval
Photographs and video
indentations.
of that event
And
have
I
become
wonder
the
if that's
iconic
some sort
representation
of
of what is now known as
a
the Phoenix
camouflage
Lights.
or something. And because he could kind of see it and kind of not see it, and because I'm seeing the
Triangulation of
craft
reports and
horizontally,
images of that
maybe
event
that's
places
why
the lights in the sky well
the
south of the
camouflage
valley,
didn't work
near
for
the
me,
gunnery range
because I could
at Gila Bend.
clearly see it. Clear as day, I could see it. There was no camouflage.
The
There
only
was no covering
representation
that
of the
up.
large
Seeing
black
those
objects at the time
indentations.
was provided by
Did
witness
the
Tim Lee,
indentations anything
whose
like an
illustration
arrowhead?
eventually made
Flint?
USA Today.
Kind of,
Arrowhead,
yeah.
In the wake of
Yeah,
that
kind
event,
of like that,
then
kind of those
Governor Fife
colors too.
Symington held a press conference
It's
in which
kind of
he
carved
mocked the
in.
press and
So
the
it's almost like a
witnesses.
huge piece of
This had
a
a chilling
flying
effect on
arrowhead,
witness reports.
Yeah.
size of a
In
city
addition,
with
the majority of
lava
contacts gathered by
pouring out of
Barbara
it.
have since been
Dripping.
lost.
Yeah, it makes no
10
sense
years
to us
later,
because
former
it's not
Governor
like something you
Symington
assemble
described to
with
CNN
Harbor Freight
an
tools and
observation
stuff.
made at a
It's like
park near
it's
Squaw Peak.
organic and
This was
alive
forensically recreated
and
as a still
large.
frame based on the track of a
Who
gigantic
came up with that
triangular
that
object whose
design? I
course
don't
had
know.
been
And
previously
who would
determined
store it?
by
Where would you store something like that?
Yeah, that's all. The hangar at Area 51 isn't large enough
Oh,
to store this unless the wings fold up.
the Area
Eh,
51, 52, and 53 to put it all together.
Yeah, where would the assembly line for something like this even be?
On this planet, yes. I mean, I don't know. And people ask, what do you think? And I try not to say because, I want to keep it at the facts as to what I saw. But when that mist went over my head, and I don't know if I did something to myself or if the craft did something to me, I just got this incredible, like Jake Barber download. Hit me emotionally, just like it was like family from 1,000 years just came by and said hello, checking in on you, letting you know we're still here, letting you know we haven't forgotten you. See you later. And it was just an overwhelming feeling of like gratitude and family and peace and love. And I just started crying. And as it flew out of sight and was flying down towards Chandler, but I would get ticked off in traffic and honk the horn and you know chase people and you're going too slow. And from that day on, 29 years ago tonight, I have never honked my horn since. I let people cut in line. I give the other guy a break. I live alone, and I sit here by myself and smile for absolutely no reason. I'm in like a joyous state 24 hours a day from that night on, and it's not changed since. And I would think that if I did something psychological to myself, after a while, you're going to snap out of it. And I just simply haven't. It's just something that's, that's positive that happened to me. And then when it went over my head, I almost felt like something in my head clicked. It's almost felt like something inside just turned like a quarter of an inch, like a little tick, like something just moved just a bit. And it was just, Everybody at work and all of my friends instantly noticed a change in my personality for the better. And it's just stayed now 29 years. It's continued, and it's not dissipated at all in all these years. So I've had 100% positive outcome from my being that close. I'm going to guess I was 30 feet underneath the tip of the left wing of that craft. Of course, I'm elevated, it was low, and people in this part of Phoenix where I was, like the Lay family or those other people, that family of four or something, said they could hit it with a tennis ball, that it was just rooftop high. In that area, it was incredibly low. And as I watched it fly down south and kind of follow 10, it was just over the streetlights. I just watched it. And it went east of South Mountain. It did not go over South Mountain at 8. This would be like 8:30.
It went east, so
Yeah.
Do you remember right now we have your video up, and we're at 4 minutes in, and there's some rainbow
this is it.
stuff. Tell us about this rainbow stuff.
This is the stuff I saw. And it's interesting so far. Dr. Lynn said she knows of 2 other people that saw this too. I haven't got to talk to any of them since this guy died. Are you playing it now? I don't see it.
Yeah.
Okay. And it waved like a fishtail, like a flag out of Disneyland. And it glowed. The colors I saw were darker, deeper, much deeper than this, but that's darn close. And I don't remember, the colors laying in this are accurate in the way he has them, but it's darn close. And they sparkled a lot more. There was thousands and thousands of sparkles through the whole thing, and it sparkled around it, and it was surrounded by an orange glow. And it wasn't like light was shining on it, like if it was a flag and you would have spotlights on it. It was emitting its own glow, and almost like a radiation. And it was irradiating completely around whatever this mist was, top and bottom, left and right, all the way around. And as it was heading south, and I could see it, because it's going out of sight, I could still see it was like a cocoon of yellow light, like a tube of light all around each and every one of them. And it surrounded the whole back. I mean, the whole back of the craft had these things behind it. How did other people miss that? It was so obvious. I mean, that glowed between the lava dripping down and then this rainbow thing. I mean, how could you? I mean, those.
What did you think? I mean, you're looking at it's dripping lava. It's like a one-piece huge arrowhead looking type thing, and then it's got rainbow type of exhaust. Do you think am I tripping? What the hell is this? What went through your mind? Because this isn't normal. That's not a normal experience 29 years ago.
It looks almost like a float, like in a parade, especially this thing, especially when you see the colorful stuff behind it. But, when that stuff was right over my head, that's when I got like plummeted with this incredible feeling of love and peace and family. I mean, history and kinship and thousands of years of history. It was, and I've never thought of stuff like that. It took every bit of my attention away from anything. It was just this incredible feeling of being a part of a huge group of other people. It's like, am I related to whoever was in that? That's kind of the feeling, is whoever was in there, they're down here to tell me, we haven't forgotten. We still think of you. And off they went. But still, to see that huge thing, and what are these colors? I couldn't make an head nor tails out of it. But the only thing I could think of was thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It was just an overwhelming feeling of gratitude. And I couldn't make, what was it? I don't know. And to be a mile wide. I mean, this isn't like, a blimp, a tiny little blimp with a sign on the side. I mean, that would have been cute. This thing was massive, and it was so low.
Yeah, I've told people from, I could sit here and listen all day to 830 witnesses, because all their stories are fascinating. They're things that you'll never hear in real life as far as a real experience. And did you see when it left? Did you just see the lights slowly go away? Because other people said that there was an intercept with F-15s. Other people said all the lights turned off. Other people said they turned from reddish to white.
I watched it as far as I could see and was heading down 10, going down through Chandler, and it actually did look like it got a little narrower. So I wonder, there's other people saying that it folded into a V, because most people saw a V. More people saw a V, a very pointed V, than saw the boomerang. So I don't know if it's because it was farther down there, but it did seem to be less wide as it got farther and farther down, going down 10 into Chandler. And it was, back then there wasn't all the buildings in the way, because I went back to that area, and you'll just die trying to be there because people run you over. There's no safe place to go there and stand and try to get my bearings, to take a picture and try to look around. And there's buildings now all over the place. I mean, back then it was still, there's still some country and neighborhoods and houses around. It's such a, there's no landmarks anymore. You can't really see it. And go. I don't remember driving home at all. And so, and that's interesting. The next thing I remember, I'm home, and it's 10 o'clock. So, there's an hour somewhere. And I was living about 20th Street in Camelback at the time. And I remember, there's no way I'm going to bed. So I'm out in the front yard and I'm looking around, is it going to come back? I mean, who wants to go to bed? When this thing might make a repeat showing. So I can kind of see South Mountain from much farther north. And then I see the lights, the 10 o'clock lights. And, unfortunately, there's buildings and there's trees in the way. And I didn't get as good of a view, of course, having the thing go right over my head, of the 10 o'clock lights. They did look different. And they did look more sporadic, but I'm much, much farther away. So I'm not a good judge as to, the difference between the two. But they didn't look the same to me. But again, I was far, far away. But I did see both sightings. The first right up close. I mean, I was in the glow of the light itself.
Audio, I'm messing with audio here. Wes, thank you for that super chat very much. Thank you for supporting the show. It says, thank you for sharing both your stories. I'm curious, have you noticed anything odd about your dreams? Yeah, I did. But nothing for I used to have UFO dreams like out of a month, maybe 4 a month, 5 a month. And now it's about 0. Just goes through weird cycles. How about you?
Well, I didn't have that much of an experience, but there is one thing, and I didn't catch it at the time until decades later. And in fact, until just recently that someone kind of brought it up to me is, and I don't know, this is a little woo-woo, and maybe it's nothing at all, but shortly after the Phoenix Lights, I left the company I was working for because another company was opening up a pediatric hospice inpatient unit. And I've worked pediatrics for years. In fact, I still do. I do pediatric hospice now, still. And so we did a 10-bed pediatric. We did newborn to 17-year-old patients, especially because, younger families, felt better being around other young families rather than 80 and 90-year-olds. So we were open for 5 years and then ran out of funds and had to close. But with all the kids that we had, and we were packed, and as soon as we would lose one child, we would have another in. But a lot of our kids, not all of our kids, were heavily medicated, and most of our children didn't live very long. I don't think we had any that lived more than 2 weeks. Oftentimes it was hours to days. But a lot of our children, and especially the kids ages like 8 to 12-year-old, that were conscious, that were lucid, that were able to communicate, that weren't heavily medicated, they would report seeing the same beings again and again and again and again. And at the time and for years afterwards, I just assumed that they were skinny spirits that would come to children, because our adults would see past loved ones. We saw this all the time. We had so many experiences. When you work hospice, you just get ready because you're going to be seeing stuff too. And that's why I started my channel, Uncle Tate's Kitchen. Was going to be a cooking show. And I thought, I've had all these hospice experiences. So all my videos are hospice. I haven't done a cooking show yet.
I don't know how you do that at all. I would last an hour there, maybe. It's a certain type of person.
Yeah.
Special people get into medical care and become nurses and doctors. Yeah. So thank you for that.
So anyway, these kids, the children, so many of them again and again and again, and our children didn't interact with each other. I don't think any of our children ever could walk. I mean, they were all bedbound, and they couldn't interact. They couldn't play with each other. So the experiences that they were having were all internal, or maybe, from their family or whatever. But they were seeing the same thing over and over and over again. And I've taken care of pediatrics before too. Every now and then we'd get them. But they were seeing the same things. And it would be what you would call a gray, except with very thin heads. Grays have big fat heads. These would have very thin heads. And they would, when the kids would draw them, generally they'd have 3 fingers. And they were very thin bodies, but just a couple feet tall. And very thin arms. And big eyes, and then just a tiny little nose and tiny little mouth and very thin heads. And some of the kids absolutely loved seeing them and enjoying them and would laugh. And some of the kids would just kind of look at them every now and then. And some of the kids were absolutely terrified of them and would try to get away from them, try to hide from them. And we had one room that was partitioned. It was one big room, and it had solid walls in between, dividing it for 3 beds. So the kids couldn't see each other or hear each other, but it was opened at the end of the room. And we would put some of our sickest kids there because the nurse could stand at the end of the room and see all 3 children. And, generally, there's, really bad kids there, very sick kids. But sometimes we would have them that they could still interact. And if we had some of those, and especially those age ranges of like 8 to 12-year-olds, and they were talking and they were seeing the beings, they would see them at the same spot at the same time in the room and respond to them at the exact same time. So it's not like they were hallucinating. They were seeing something and respond simultaneously, but the kids couldn't see each other. So I know that they were actually seeing something. They were responding to something. And again, I just assumed it was just a spirit, there for children. And I didn't feel anything benevolent. And I've seen many, many spirits in my hospice career. These I never did see. And I never felt anything, but I didn't feel good or bad, anything from these things. And I would send my thoughts to them and say, please let me see you just once. I'd love to see you. And I never once did. But sometimes they would respond almost in sounds, like single syllable words, the kids at the same time to the beings. And I just thought, these are little angels or little, spirits there for children. And this went on for 5 years. And then we had 7 private rooms where the kids were by themselves. And at times, the kids that were lucid, and especially that age range, would see the same thing and describe them and draw them the same way. And it's like, what's going on? Is it a special spirit for children, for dying children? Or is it something in this location, where the hospice unit was built? I don't know.
Have you kept up on some of these talks of whistleblowers and whatnot, where they're talking about these, whatever these NHI are, they have something to do with the afterlife. They know how it works. Some of them, like Whitley Strieber, have accused them of, like, they could be transferring our souls from one physical body into something else. It just listening to you talking about hospice and children, if this is real, and what the intelligence people are telling us is along those lines, it would make sense for NHI to be around terminally ill kids, and then you end up hearing stories as just a worker in that environment. So it kind of gels together there. Have you heard anything about that? What are your thoughts?
I heard a little bit about it, and I spoke to somebody that's a UFO expert, and they think that I was chosen somehow and manipulated to be that close to the UFO, to the Phoenix Lights, to get some sort of download, to be like a, what do you call that? The passenger, the hitchhiker effect.
Yeah.
Because I'm a hospice nurse, and brought that into the environment, and especially later on with children, that was a part of some plan, which absolutely devastated me. I mean, I heard this many years later. It's like, oh my God, I certainly hope not. I hope these things were absolutely wonderful, loving, little creatures, for children. I mean, we ran out of money. We had to close the facility, and it's been long gone. The place has been destroyed. It's now something completely else, if it's the location or whatever. But this was like just a couple, maybe even a year ago, somebody brought this up, and I'm thinking, oh my God. I mean, is it a hitchhiker from the Phoenix Lights? I don't know.
Yeah, you got so far in an hour or so. We heard about your dad had something to do at Wright-Patterson. Well, he did, not allegedly. Your dad was at Wright-Patterson and apparently had experience with dead alien bodies and at least one craft. And then you had one hell of a close encounter with the Phoenix Lights. And then we have just incredible stories, and at the same time very sad, with children in hospice and them seeing something around. I'm going to run a couple of videos, and I want to get your opinion of them. The first one is going to be the famous, well, you've seen it. It's going to be the Terry Proctor video.
Okay.
It goes by quick. It's only
Gail,
a minute long.
The hell with it. Come here. You see it?
Yeah.
I don't know what it is yet.
What do you think when you see this video?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have to hand hold this bastard.
The object does not. It's of the lights before you saw them. So he taped it at 8:28 when it was coming into town.
That's what he's calling about.
The object looks like it's possibly up about 10,000 feet, and then there's one light that's trailing behind it off the back, and that would be the light that would be on the east side of it because the object's heading south.
I can't get this to play.
Well, you've seen Terry's video. What do you think? When you see that video and yours was in your face. It was 30 feet above you when you saw it. His was way the hell up, but he was, let's think, carefree. So he's like, what, maybe 18 miles north of you? So in order for this to work, that thing had to be descending. And according to the military whistleblower called Art Bell, it was. They said it was descending from 10,000 feet. So that thing would have had to been descending like a mofo to get down to ground level. At what are we, like 1,000 feet altitude or something like that?
Right.
So it would have had to drop 9,000 feet in 18 miles or so. And it's also gliding at 35 miles an hour. Did you see any F-15s when around? Because that's another thing, you know, when you talk to people who saw this, you could have two people or more in a party that saw the 830 object. One of them will say it was right over our head, and the other one, you could say, no, it was at 10,000 feet. So there's always some disparities. The lights match 5 to 7, but usually the altitude changes, but that doesn't really matter. It doesn't, those details to me don't matter. They're, you know, ancillary eyewitness effects.
Well, you know, interesting about the light, because I talked to a guy that probably saw it about 4 minutes before I did, because he was, I forget what street he was on. So he was farther north than I, and he was right underneath the light, right underneath the canister. So I'm seeing orange, bright orange and yellow, and of course I'm seeing it dripping down and out of the craft. Of course, I'm seeing it horizontally sideways from the craft, but he's looking up at it, and he could clearly see up inside the tube, and he said it was glowing, and it was lit, and he said it looked like cotton candy swirling in a machine. So that makes sense. He said it looked orange but swirling. So I'm wondering if it, at that point where he saw it, it was forming what I'm seeing as lava, if it was making the substance that I'm calling lava. And huh. Yes.
Where her and her kids, and she said it looked like it had shot down a laser or something. Right. So she's at like a farther away view where you were more under it. And let's see, Mike Fortson, he saw it, and he said from him, he said it looked like it was going down the 101. So he said it looked like it was going down Alma School and Elliott part, but he's also seeing from this kind of distance, so he can't tell how far away it is.
I see.
So that's why some people will see like heavy details when they're closer, like you are. Then you have other people that are several miles away, and they can't tell it's one object. They just see a bunch of lights. It's dark. Mike Fortson, he saw it go against the moon, and when it crossed the moon, he said it was like a transparent object. He said it was a huge boomerang. It was open in the back, like you described. But he said it was a murky yellow when it went by the moon. So it was somewhat transparent.
See, I wonder if those oval indentations, again, are the camouflage and somehow reflecting light somehow, or mirrors or something to, again, camouflage the ship. So no wonder it looks so different, you know, when people look at it. I mean, those indentations all over the bottom, the whole bottom is just like indentations. If their purpose is to do something, you know, maybe to disguise it somehow, or is it for propulsion, or is it communication? I don't know. But it has to have a purpose.
Yeah, well, sometimes we end up with UFOs that are like nuts and bolts, like the flying saucer type, where it's some silvery craft made out of aluminum type foil that makes sense. It's like, yeah, okay, somehow you can get inside and that thing has power. This huge mile-long boomerang made out of lava that was like a chipped flint arrowhead. It's almost like it was a solid piece of rock that's flying around with lava propulsion or something. It makes absolutely no sense in our world or our dimension at all.
I don't know. I mean, and then, Dr. Lynn said, of course, that there's 10 different craft, but then that was in several different states, that it went from that they were seen in New Mexico, in various spots of Arizona, and then in eastern California, like in a 15-hour period, and then that the Navajo reservation, Navajo Rangers said, they were seeing craft like a day or two before.
In the daytime.
Yeah.
These were showing up in the daytime. It's actually on March 12th, according to the National UFO Reporting Center, there were two of these objects that flew right over Las Vegas, one following the other one. Sounds just like everything we're matching all this description. So it could have been the Las Vegas lights, but didn't happen. So they flew south on the 12th. No one knows anything about what happened after that. The 13th happened again, went through Vegas, then Henderson, then Paulden, Prescott, down the I-17. And then we, after the 8:30 event, we had that black triangle that other people saw, and they said this was not this boomerang. This had a flat back, so they could see it. And very few people saw this one. This one they described. Max Harrison and his wife saw it. There was another couple that described this. They both described two different eyewitnesses that don't know each other, that are over 60 miles apart, described plates on the bottom of this thing, like the Borg, and thousands of lights going down the rim. And Max's wife said there were people looking out the window. It was 2 mile long craft, but that was at 9. That was not at 8:30. So that was the second one that was following the first one. And in this investigation, it was Michael Tanner who it was tasked to go out and talk to all these people. So he personally talked to about 500 people face to face, and they all had this similar weird story of what they saw. Usually it was the 8:30 event. Most people didn't see 10. And no one described A-10s. No one described a refueling operation. No one described just a military thing. Everybody had pretty much a UFO type story. And then the skeptics just go, nah, we're going to believe Mitch Stanley because, their bias kicks in. And it's always funny that I hear eyewitness testimony is unreliable, except for Mitch Stanley's. Then that one's good. He's good to go. But any other case, they throw it out. So I say, well, then fuck Mitch Stanley's. I think the kid was trolling. I saw him one time. I think, if this were to happen today, there'd be 50 Mitch Stanleys going, no, dude, it was the Blue Angels. Or, just to troll.
I just wondered, who was the nurse that saw the jets take off and chase it? Because she was way out in the West Valley. And she said that actually the jets, when they took off, she actually ducked just out of reaction because they were so low. They had just taken off to chase it. What's her name? But I wonder, which way did they go? Did they go behind South Mountain to catch up to it? Or did they go in front of South Mountain? Because that would be smart of them to go south of South Mountain rather than to be so obvious and be seen by everybody.
From what I've heard reporting from talking to eyewitnesses, it went over to be the east side of South Mountain where it flew over the Arizona Mills. So it would have
The jets?
No, the UFO. Now, where the jets intercepted them was 7th and Indian School. I'm going to roll this clip. This is a FOIA. Let's see. Let's see this one. It's going to be. This came from Art Bell later that night, of a whistleblower calling in.
About 3 minutes and 10 seconds. It comes out of Luke Air Force Base within hours of the event over Phoenix. Here we go.
Let me start the tape and I'll put a timer on. For the record, it's 03:20 hours on Friday, the 14th of March, 97. I'm talking with a gentleman who is just calling from Phoenix. Okay, sir, go ahead.
That's correct. The Luke Air Force Base is actually in Litchfield. I got off shift about 30 minutes ago. At 8:15, the radio alert at Luke Air Force Base, which is two F-15s that we keep on radio alert. They're part of the Air Force One and the Air Force Two protection group, protect them when they come west of the Rocky Run over the president or any dignitaries on board. They were launched because all hell broke loose, basically. Currently, we got a call from Prescott Valley Airport, a small airport northwest, and reporting an object that had a near miss with a small Cessna aircraft. The call came up once radio approximately 8:32, from my understanding, that they encountered something over the sky, over Phoenix, Arizona, over the area of 7th Avenue and Indian School Road. They don't know what it was. The description that one of the pilots stated that they had a visual on it, they've got gun camera film of it, they have no radar tape of it. It scared the hell out of them. I've never seen this I'm talking about. Yeah, command pilot of this particular flight. He'll never talk. He's a real professional. Never seen this man. I've never seen this man scared. Are you familiar with the term white noise, blanking out radar? My understanding is that's what they got, was strictly white noise. His statement was that they followed this aircraft. They went on a straight line course heading towards Vector Harbor Airport, which is one of our main airports here, and it entered the pattern, Sky Harbor Airport, crossed the pattern of the outbound runways. The outbound runways at that time, the wind was coming in from the west. They encountered going in originally two 737s and a DC-10 taking off from Sky Harbor. We have an American West hub here, so we've got a lot of space. This aircraft stated it was, his understanding was that it was at approximately 18,000 feet, descending to 10,005. When it got to Angels 10.5, it completely went dark. He doesn't know if it was one aircraft or several aircraft. He saw 5 distinct lights in a triangular pattern. First 3 lights were in a tight triangular formation. One of the rear lights was with starboard at about, he said that it was about 200 yards, and then the other light was at about 400 yards, also on the east side of the triangle, if you will. His belief is that this might have been more than one aircraft. He could not describe the aircraft. All he could say is that there were lights.
I met him quite a few times.
You met Art Bell?
Quite a few times. He was friends with friends of mine. They had an antique shop in Phoenix called Do-Wah Diddy. Do you remember? How long have you been here?
Since 95.
Yeah. Oh, they closed, I think, about that time. It was a 1950s collectible shop, and Art used to collect mid-century modern furniture. And somewhere I got a bunch of alien sketches he did and signed for me. And we also had Brad Steiger, used to live in Scottsdale, and he wrote like 100 books, a lot of books on UFOs. And I always wonder whatever happened to his incredible files he had.
Okay, so I did a simulation of what that jet would not, but just how long it would take. So we know that the object was videotaped at 8:28. That's from the call records from Terry Proctor from his phone bill. So that's when he was rolling. And then they intercepted this object about 8:30 over 7th and Indian School. But here's the thing. In order to intercept it at 8:30, you're going to have to deduct the time it takes to get in that jet and take off. We have some of that time through a really cool simulation I did. Okay. So let me get this queued up here. All right. So thanks to the Xbox and buying an F-15 package, we can take off from. So what's going on here is I'm doing a simulation at F-15D, and I'm taking off from Sky Harbor. I have the date rolled back to March 13th, 1997. So this will be the weather and the moon. So this will be everything that you would have seen from back then. So in order to hit that area, 7th and Indian School, which I'm going to do, as they have to take off. So then you have to think, well, then how long was that guy sitting in that jet? I have to factor that in and, you know, taxiing that thing out. So they would have had to have been alerted long before 8:20. So I'm thinking when that thing almost hit a plane in Prescott, they called Luke Air Force Base. I think, according to testimony from Frances Barwood and her husband. When they called Luke Air Force Base, they said, "We're not FOFA, all right? We're got a jet. We're taking off right now." So they had to have gotten ready at 8:15 to do what you're seeing in this simulation right here.
It's about.
So when they got over to this area at 7th and Indian School, it took them a few minutes. And then, instead of following the object, according to the testimony from the caller that called in, all the lights went off. As soon as they came up, they filmed all this too with a gun camera pod. So they had what was called a Lantern 2 pod for filming in FLIR. So there is video of this. So they videotaped it. They shot radar at it, and they got back white noise, which is basically military talk for being scrambled. So the radar got scrambled by the object. So interesting that the flying lava mile-long piece of flint that you saw is able to jam radar, right? So that's pretty technological for like a flying rock. You know, it might have very strange object that has some strange capabilities. So you're seeing it here. He came back and he wouldn't get out of here. He came back in shock, and he says this wasn't one of ours. And the base then apparently shut down, which they never do. They just turned off. It doesn't make any sense. They turned off all the lights and said, "Fuck it, you guys are on your own. We're not." Hey man, they all turned into Private Hudson from Aliens. You can count me out. Fuck this shit, you know. So now I'm racing back to the base here with the jet. Weird. What are your thoughts here, Dave? I mean, there's so many thoughts on this intercept.
So what was the interception at 10,000 feet that Dr. Lim was talking about?
That would depends. I believe it's probably this caller that called into Art Bell that said that the object was descended from 10,000 feet when they intercepted it. So they would have had to have seen this looking at the simulation as soon as they took off. As large as this object is, as soon as the pilot, they might have saw it from the ground. They might have also saw it looking out of the canopy of the jet. But I know as soon as he had wheels up and turned, they saw this thing. Now, the other time that they might have saw him is there was a report that there was a day I was over at Mike Fortson's house. He was a 8:30 eyewitness. Mm-hmm. And he showed me this newspaper report he had. And in this report was from like an America West pilot or something. And they were flying at like 30,000 feet, and they were going from California to the East Coast. And when they got over northern part of Arizona, they looked down and they saw this object. They saw the boomerang looking down, and it was blocking out the city lights when it was going over them. So they saw it blocking out the city lights in reverse, looking down. So people from the bottom looking up, trying to see stars. These people were looking down. Then all of a sudden, over to their left, they see an F-15 just pull up right beside them. It's like, what the F? And it's like, yeah, they're watching this. So what I got from that newspaper report was that there was somebody up north in this jet that saw this thing as it was going down Prescott-Paulden area, and there were jets watching it then. Whose jets? I don't know, because we have at least the FOIA from Davis-Monthan Air Force Base. And let me bring this up on screen here. I don't know if I got that one prepared here, but too many things going on. Bring this back real quick. So these are the tower records. So whose jets are they? Right? Because these are all, this is everything from Davis-Monthan. These are the names of the pilots from March 13th that landed and signed off. Now, I can't read this stuff. I don't know what the military jargon here all means. Well, this report that I'm showing on the screen was from Bill Hamilton when he did a FOIA to Davis-Monthan Air Force Base, and he said this response Freedom of Information Act for the tower log, approach log, departure log, and any flight records and base operations from March 13th from 10 to 11 of what was going on in Davis-Monthan Air Force Base. So this was what he got back. Now, my wife, so Bill FOIA'd Davis-Monthan. My wife, Rhonda, went for Sky Harbor. So when we had this research group that was on the screen before, everybody had kind of different assignments. Bill was collecting reports. MUFON was doing their thing. I was looking at videos. I had about 12 reports that I had turned in. We went looking at the tower records. So my wife, after, and we all had jobs like you did. So after work, we do this. She found out, so she goes after the FOIA for Phoenix Sky Harbor. They say, look, we don't have any records. Albuquerque has them. So finally, she gets the number to Albuquerque, or the address to Tracon, says, we want everything to your tower, all your communications from these jets from 8 o'clock to 10:30. They said we recycled the tapes. Nothing. So that's the response that we got back. So people say no one asked the tower. Bullshit. Jim Snable from Channel 10, I think, he asked the tower. There were reporters from the local news. They asked the tower. It did not show up on radar, but they didn't get any of the communications. So the reporters could have asked Tracon, you think they would know this, to at least get the Kirk Russell calling the tower, right? And that in its own is a weird story too, that we have a A-lister who was the pilot, called the tower. You see in this tower didn't see any lights at all. That's fucking weird, right? They're watching planes coming in. They can't see the mile-long craft. Weird, huh?
I know. Someone was telling me that the police down in Casa Grande reported it, and all of those records are missing. I mean, it would have gone right over Casa Grande. No one ever talks about any witnesses down there.
Yeah, well, it was seen at Picancho Peak area by a witness that was driving up. That's where Michael Tanner theorizes that the boomerang docked. I don't know where he got this from, but the boomerang docked with the triangle, and somehow they the tip goes onto the front of the triangle. It becomes one craft. So all things fucking UFO Voltron or something.
Wow. And
so
then
I don't know where he got that from, but that was his theory.
And then what was his theory where it went?
Oh, then it went from there, it headed down to Tucson, where then it was seen returning back north later.
See, I haven't talked to anybody that saw it returning back. I heard it went to Mexico.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know who saw it in Mexico. I didn't hear.
If you look at the early news reports from March 14th with Jim Schnabel, he had a graphic of the object going down where it looked like a star and a triangle and then a boomerang, and then it went back up north. I don't know where he got those reports from, but that was early reports. The whole investigation went from news reporters through us and Village Labs and then disseminated out. And we had no debunkers. None of them called us, right? There was no Mike Shermer. I know he was around, right? He didn't call us. Joe Nickel, the guy who lives in Tucson, the pilot who debunks shit, he doesn't investigate. He didn't call us. We had Philip Klass had not kicked the bucket yet. He didn't call. None of these people call. They didn't ask me for copies of the videotapes, reports, nada. So what they did is an investigation of our investigation and said, you know what? We're going with the Mitch Stanley, the kid. That's what happened. They'll say, we know that there's 450 people who saw some type of boomerang, but we're going with the kid. Fuck it. It's like, well, you know what? I'm glad they're not investigating murders. You know, because I like to, you know, like the serial killer or the Richard Ramirez. One person reported it was a midget. It wasn't a midget that was doing those murders. They actually caught him later, red-handed, and beat his ass. Thank God they didn't listen to that midget story, you know. So debunkers should never be homicide detectives. We're in deep trouble, man.
They'd be missing everybody, just looking for the midget.
We'd never arrest nobody. Nobody. If Mick West and all these type of people were cops, nobody would be in jail.
Crazy.
So what do you think when you see any other videos? Is there any video that you've seen out there that someone's recorded that you go, that's it?
No, none.
Nothing? Nobody's ever got it?
Absolutely nothing. And why is that? I mean, why was this thing, it was like put together, I mean, so bizarrely, with bizarre lights. I mean, and it was paraded right through Phoenix. I mean, does this thing really want to be seen? I mean, it doesn't look like, it doesn't sound like an accident. I mean, someone says, and I just had somebody else say, that it was an experimental craft that broke loose. Well, I don't buy that at all. It couldn't have flown, 400 plus miles accidentally and dodging and changing altitude to avoid hitting telephone poles and rock formations and been an accident. And to have such bizarre lights shining and to go right through populated areas. I mean, we're never going to have an answer as to why it did this and not through desert. Of course, it went through a lot of desert. And if people are really trying to catch it, they're going to try to catch it in the desert before it gets to Phoenix. I mean, if the government's really going to shoot it down.
Yeah, maybe the government was just like, let's just watch it and pray it doesn't do anything hostile because we can't do shit about it. You're going to do drop a bomb on a flying town that's like a rock and drop lava. I don't know if I saw lava dripping out of it, I'd land the plane and say that wasn't ours either.
Yeah.
We don't have lava dripping out of the damn thing. But, I want disclosure as much as anybody else, but I also realize if we got it, if everyone got what we want, like the government to come out and tell us everything. Right now, there's a general guy who's missing from New Mexico. He's all over the news, right? And it reminds me of, Samantha Guthrie's mom. Like people, and you work with older people, they don't go missing on this regular basis. But this guy who's missing, and I'm going to say this for all of us because most people won't say it. We want to get this guy back so we can shake the fucking information. Where the fuck is the fucking Roz? What's going on, dude? Tell us what's going on. That's why we want to find this guy, because he knows all the goddamn secrets. So it's kind of weird he's missing. But if we found out, I think the public could handle like a Roswell disc, and they could go, look, it's broke open. There was these entities in there. They sort of look like us. I think we could handle that. The shit I don't think we can handle is these plasma type UFOs that, like you're describing, lava. What do you do with lava that's the size of your car that flies around? It's AGI or whatever the phrase is, right? It's smarter than all of us. It jams radars. It could merge, do whatever. We can't make sense of that. We can't copy it. We can't make money off of it. I think people would just freak the fuck out with stuff like that.
I don't know. And the missing cows and are people missing too from that, with all the missing people going on throughout the country? You're right.
There's a dark side of ufology with human mutilations that people really, really don't want to address, and that could be one of the things that they don't ever want to talk about. Like they could say, okay, Roswell happened, but we're never getting into, I think it was a crash in Aztec. I don't want to put on bad information, but I think there was a crash in New Mexico where they found humans in them and they were mutilated, and it wasn't from the crash. So I think the military freaked out, like, oh shit, because that would be back in the 50s. That would be still the discovery period. What are these things? Are we food? Are these half-eaten people? What the hell is going on? So I could see if I was in that position, I wouldn't tell these people too. And it'd be just like, you know what? Just go back to work. You don't want to know about any of this stuff.
So that's why I wonder if the reason that there's no disclosure is maybe there really is something going on. That they, it's not just casual stuff, that there's people from space. I mean, who knows? It's all supposition. So when you don't know, of course, you create these situations. So I don't know. They don't seem to want to reveal it to us just because we're curious. There's no payoff for them.
Well, if we're just cattle that's taxed, and then they take our money and do stupid shit with it. Like right now, we have an undeclared war going on, and I'm trying to find out, like, what do I do? And in the first Iraq war, when CNN was invented, we got to see some of that live. Then the sequel, Iraq 2, we got to see shock and awe as it happened. This is like a news blackout. It's really hard to find anything. They're not showing us, like, is Israel getting destroyed? Is Iran getting? We don't know. Yesterday, I saw Eric Weinstein, right?
Mm-hmm.
Asking people, where do you get news? Because he couldn't find it either. So why is that relevant to this? Because if this were to happen today, a news blackout could happen. We wouldn't even know. They could just say, hey, Dancing with the Stars is on, but no network showed this boomerang. Don't show any videos of it. Nothing. It didn't happen.
Wait till the newscasters become AI and they're not people anymore. When there's no one digging the information everybody's created. All the personalities are no longer human. Then they can create whatever they want.
Well, it's kind of scary because in place is some kind of blackout system of at least what's going on with this war, which easily can be applied, filtering out UFOs. Or I know my channel is blacklisted because, I should have probably a lot more subscribers, but I don't really care too much about that. But I know this channel doesn't get thrown up around other channels like, and I'm going to get into this in another podcast, of these people who pop up with 500,000 subscribers and you go, who is this? where the hell have you came from? I've been in ufology for over 3 decades. And when someone just pops up and goes, look, everybody, I'm famous. And here's Whitley Strieber, and here's Lou Elizondo, and here's James Fox. Where the fuck did you come from? Where did your money? Who is pumping you up? Because social media is really behind all this. A lot of people don't see these marks coming up of all of a sudden this guy comes up, CIA, NSA retired, and they are the talking heads of ufology, right. And everybody else is drowned out. You might get 20 people listening to you, but then you get these spooks that come out. They get these channels out of nowhere. You've been watching this for over 29 years or more, and you see it.
Yeah, the Kardashians of UFO.
Yeah. Yes, it's strange. And yeah, they could, if this were to happen tonight, they could do a complete blackout, and the only people who could show it is maybe somebody with a website. But social media, they got entire control of that. So the idea that something's going to happen and some dude is going to film it with his phone and it's going to go viral is never going to fucking happen on today's internet. Not because it's already happened. Chris Donald's filmed one of these orbs from 50 feet. Hardly anybody's seen that footage. So they could just make sure no one sees it.
Isn't that interesting? So what are we going to do? So
I don't know. We have conversations. We still do work. This is an uphill battle. It really is. And it's a generational thing too. This isn't something we're just going to figure out, by some files coming out or FOIA and something. This is something that grandkids might be working on. This like a problem that your kids would work on and their kids would work on. And this UFO problem, we get little morsels that we put together into this puzzle.
Well, it's like the events. It's all just the big headliners. The TV personalities, the big speakers. And then it's like the little people people don't buy tickets for. The last thing, the event I went to, people wanted to see the ancient alien people speak, but, not the real investigators.
We have a question for you. Have you ever reported a sighting to a government agency?
No.
That would be, I guess, to qualify that, calling the Air Force or calling the police or...
at the time, I didn't know about about MUFON or things about that back then. I didn't know who to go to with my sighting. But then the next day, of course, it's on TV. It's like you. I went to work, and at Hospice, we had like a little living room with a TV on, and there it's on the news. People calling in, and they saw this, that, and the other. But I never did. I never called the news. I had 2 other sightings of beings, NHI, on camping trips. And at the time, I thought, who do I call? Who do you talk to? I thought, I'm not calling the police. I'm not calling the sheriff. I'm not going to do anything. I just kept it to myself. I don't know what they were. What are you going to say? No.
Well, yeah, there's some stuff. It's like, what, just keep, a lot of shit happens camping, man. I had a story. Camping. What the hell is that lake over on the other side? I'm trying to remember. The lake over on the other side of Superstition out east. Went camping out there with my brother. We're out in tents and we're sitting around and we're telling stories. And then that's where my brother's wife, I'm telling her UFO stories because my brother's not a UFO person. And we're looking and then we're like, what in the fuck is that? And we look and there's something streaking going through the clouds. And the clouds are at like 30,000 feet. This is at night. And it's giving off a pulse. And when it does, it's a strobe. It goes boom, boom, like this. And as it's flying, it's not the red and green light. We couldn't even see it. We're seeing a pulse go off, like the thing has a strobe light or something. And it's like, what kind of strobe light? And I'm looking up going, that's giving out like 50 miles and boom. What the fuck is that? And I didn't have a camera with me. But yeah, weird stuff always happens at some point.
I was out camping and it was underground. It was just this massive digging sounds underground. And, of course, I grew up, it was a Lone Ranger in Tonto, and what they would do is put their ear to the ground to hear, horses way off. I learned that watching Westerns on TV. So I put my ear to the ground and it was coming from underground. Massive underground digging out in the middle of nowhere, 20 miles from any building. Stuff's going on underground out there. I don't know what's going on, but far from, any habitat. So, don't just look at the skies, look underneath your feet. Stuff's going on under there. I don't know if it's military or if it's something else. There's a lot of stuff going on out here in Arizona.
I'm switching over to live cam real quick, just to take a peek. It is not 10:55 on there. It's 7:55 Arizona time. These goddamn, man, I love in Arizona that we don't change our time, but we have to deal with all this shit, like all these NVR. I have 3 or 4 NVRs and so many cameras. Everything's out of sync and off by hours or minutes. It's just a pain in the butt, but I love it. Yeah, what do? We just continue life, I mean.
Well, we don't have to change our time, but we miss everybody else's because they do.
Yeah, well, we end up with devices that you have to fuck with their daylight savings time. And I turn it off, man. I'm not fucking stupid. I have every single one of these set to Arizona time. And about every day I got to go reset it. They're smart and dumb NVRs.
So anything going on outside you're looking?
No, we switched over to a windshield wiper camera.
I'm not seeing comments. Is there any comments? Nothing.
Let me switch over real quick to this. I'm zooming around real quick, see if anything's happening. All right, well, a couple hours has went by. That was really interesting stories that you dropped. Your dad, I didn't expect that.
Yeah.
I know you worked in hospice, but man, that stories with your dad I wonder if your dad didn't do that, if you wouldn't have saw the Phoenix Lights. Do you ever think about that? If it's connected?
His dad too, and my dad. I wonder if my boys would have seen something. I wonder what if my great grandfather or someone would have seen something. I mean, who knows? I wonder if there is something running in the family. Isn't that interesting?
This whole thing makes me wonder how much free will we actually have. Like, yes, you can go out, you can go to the bar tonight, you can get wasted, right? But my point here is there seems to be something where we're pushed into things. Like I've been almost pushed into what I'm doing here. And I finally agreed and embraced and leaned into what I'm doing with Skywatching and UFOs and all this. But this didn't happen by accident, Right. So I wonder, to me, it seems like they move us around the planet like chess pieces, kind of like herding cats, like, oh, no, you're living in Montana or you're living in Ohio. We need you in Arizona. Why? Because we want you to see this. Why? We will never understand it because we can't understand a fucking thing of lava that's the size of a car docked into an arrowhead flying around a mile long. We don't get it, but it seems like they can manipulate us to a certain degree. Like we've all heard of MK Ultra and, the CIA can weaponize and brainwash a person into a killer. I wonder if these beings, NHI, are doing that to us to be observers, to observe things from certain positions. So it's almost like they know what is coming, and it's almost preordained with some choices, but no matter what, we're going to be in that position. Like, no matter what, you were going to be in Phoenix and you were going to see that. Deviations were going to happen along the way, but you were meant to kind of see that. That's kind of how I feel about all this. You know, of everything I see in ufology, that's kind of my summation of it.
And you are so impassioned to doing what you're doing with this. And I'm so impassioned at 71, I'm still working, you know, as a hospice nurse. Is there a reason for that? That for some outcome that that someone somewhere or some force or something has set up. And speaking of, you know, what the lava and that, someone else just brought that up with me again, that at one of the congressional hearings, one of the witnesses in 2025 was describing lava dripping from one of the craft that he saw. And someone else just said he had done an article. What was the in Kentucky, where the little green men came and they had the shootout with that family in Kentucky, like in 1957 or something. I mean, they were shooting the creatures and they were jumping out of the way with the bullets, and that the craft there was dripping lava too, a lava type substance. And the Henderson Forest.
Are you talking Cash Landron?
Was that it?
That was the one with the helicopters, and they were escorting apparently a UFO that was running off of nuclear power or something like that. And it was that one's different than shooting. That one I don't remember shooting.
Someone just brought that up, and I thought, I need to look that up. But there's been a couple other sightings where people saw something lava-like dripping. I don't know. I haven't heard of it.
Best you can do is use AI to search that out. Even one thing I noticed about AI is, since Google wrecked their own search on YouTube and Google for UFOs, if you do a search through Gemini through UFOs, it's like, we don't know. Yeah, because your own shit fucked it up. Gemini isn't going to find anything. But if you go through ChatGPT, Grok, or I just started messing around with Claude, probably can get some better results. So, and I bet you it can search this National UFO Reporting Center. There's got to be somebody in there who has reported lava dripping.
Yeah, I'll look into that. Let's see what I can find. I'll let you know. I don't know if there is something about that.
Okay, I'm going to wrap this up so this doesn't go into hour 3. Just want to thank everybody for coming out. Gemini, thanks for coming out. Dan Starsky, thanks for coming. Gobstopper, thanks for your super chat. Wes Decker, again. Yeah, there was something screwed up here. Thanks for the $10 super chat you sent in. Terry Hall, thanks for stopping by. Yeah, I've had some intermittent audio problems. When my audio died, Murphy's Law, I couldn't hear anything else. I don't know what the hell. I think I just need to use these newer ones, and ditch the older ones. Yeah, we miss Shelly. Shelly's probably out at a party. And we'll see her somewhere. Mia Leo, thanks for stopping in. Hubert, thanks for stopping in. I need to talk to you about UFODAP sometime. And I think got almost everybody. Anyway, I seldom say this. If you guys like this stuff, hit that button, hit like, subscribe to the channel. I drop all kinds of stuff on here. I didn't do a show last week because I wasn't in a good mood. I had not a lot of stuff I wanted to talk about. I don't do a show just for the point of doing a show. I want to put out something that's as good content so you can look back on it a year from now or 2 years from now, and it's still relevant to some type of research or project. It's not just here talking about dumb shit that no one will watch next year. I want to make some type of content that's reusable, right? So Dave Parker, your channel is in the description above. If you guys want to check out some more March 13th content, click the description above. I got a link to his channel. He's got a bunch of other March 13th interviews. I don't even think I've seen a couple of them on there. So make sure you hit his channel, subscribe to him too.
You and I have been on a couple TV shows together and a couple documentaries. I know the one on the CW channel. What was that called?
All right, fuck it. We're
Mysteries
going
Decoded. Are we on?
Yeah, we're going to go longer. Fuck it. They're asking for it, so we'll give it to them.
Okay. Mysteries Decoded.
Mysteries, was that the WC?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That episode just came on YouTube.
Oh, it did. Yeah, Ryan Sprague. Yeah, he. I think he moved over to England. He's got a YouTube channel, quite a number of subscribers. I just found him on YouTube about a month ago and subscribed to him. So he does some pretty good stuff. Well, we were on that show.
The whole episode just came out unedited. I mean, before it was just the clips. And
yeah, I remember when they filmed that. They filmed that before COVID, and then if you remember that, and then it's like I don't think it's ever coming out, and then 2 years later it comes out, or something like that. So I thought they canceled the thing, but I guess they took whatever they spent money on filming it. They had a big crew here, right?
Oh, yeah.
And that costs like $10,000-$20,000 to fly all these people out and move them around, and then just to do nothing with it.
They took me out in the desert. It was like 10, 11 o'clock at night after I worked all day and filmed me in the dark. They tried to get me as close to the site as possible, and I was half asleep. But we did that. And then you and I are both on UFO Witness. I think that episode, aren't we?
I don't remember doing UFO Witness. Did we do that?
We did something. We're on another show. And then on Patrick James, we're both on his documentary here.
Oh, yeah. He did a good job on that.
He did a great job on that, yeah.
I end up on shows that I don't know if I did because I think they cut me from another show. And then, because when you sign this, I don't know if they've ever handed you these contracts. I usually have copies of them. But they basically say, here's $200. Now we own your footage. And they use these words that are only used in Hollywood in perpetuity throughout the universe. Perpetuity throughout the universe. Only LA contracts do this, which means they own it even in hell and in the afterlife, and then throughout the universe. So I'm trying to think, was it the WC? There was one of these people I fucking trolled really, really hard because they had that perpetuity throughout the known universe. So I went even farther because these people think that if they're reborn, they can somehow license your material to other planets and other people. So they just said perpetuity throughout the universe. So I put in one contract, shit they never even thought of, because I don't know if you know that you can modify these contracts. So I had in there, but I will retain the rights in heaven and hell, because they didn't have heaven and hell. And then I said in parallel dimensions. And then I said in other organic life forms. And I included artificial intelligence, virtual reality, and other medias and stuff that they didn't even think of. And they must have fucking laughed, because I was talking about also time travel, that I will own this going forward backward in time, that if we ever get a time machine and we can go back, I'm selling copies of my shit to Atlantis, right? And so anyway, sometimes when I got out of ufology for 12 years, my wife would still watch these shows, and she goes, "You're on TV again." I'm like, "What? This happened?" And then you walk by and it's like, well, usually it's the footage, but they're recycling it. So you end up on shows that I don't know have anything to do with. But
well, you and it's a major sighting. I mean, that's going to be forever. I mean, from the video.
Yeah, they like the sound clips from that because there was kind of a party atmosphere there. And then when they go to the other clips, like when you have Mike Christian, he's like, it's him and Sue talking, and then there's no audio at all that I can remember on the Terry Proctor video. And then we have the Steve Blonder stuff before mine. But yeah, they just play it because they want sound bites. They just want sound bites.
I did one this last summer from Japan, and they had us out. They had 3 of us to interview, and they had us out in the sun by saguaros. Of course, they wanted to get a cactus, and then translators. So, in between each sentence, we had to wait, and they had to translate. And then they'd ask us another question where we're still trying to answer the last question. So I don't know how they put it together, but they flew all the way out from Japan with a whole crew just for this one TV show in Japan, and then left. And
Weird.
I'm sure it had to be terrible because the translation, we never got to finish a thought.
Well, I did a thing with Nippon Television in Japan in 1990, end of 97, maybe beginning of 98. And they came out here, just like you said, they came out here, it was a totally different production. So when we were dealing with all these TV shows back in the day, when we were dealing with the ones out of Los Angeles, it was like dealing with Bill Paxton's character out of True Lies when he played that sleazy car dealer. Everyone we talked to from LA was like, yeah, they'd be like, yeah, Dave, you're the shit. We're going to have you on this episode. Man, it's going to be all about you. I don't think anybody else talks on the episode except you. You're going to be so famous. You're going to have actresses coming for you. You're going to have scripts and gigs. And there's a movie going to be made about it. So we're just trying to figure out who the hell's going to play you in the movie. Maybe it'll be me. Maybe you'll be an A-lister. So you'd hear shit like that. Then we would hear, like, Jaime Maussan would come up from Mexico. And that's before Jaime Maussan was crazy, right? Because that dude, like, is involved with every shitty case there is anymore. He comes up, and he came up right during the blackout. So we had that national news blackout after the March 13th happened. Me and Bill Hamilton hit the ground everywhere. We were doing radio at night. So we were like on Erskine Payton's. He had like a thing from 10 to 1 a.m. So we were doing that, then going to work the next day, then getting case reports and investigating. So we're working around the clock. Then we would go from there, drive to Tucson, do Ted Lohman's AZ Talk, come back. Then we do some more radio. Then we do, but the only one covering it at that time was local news. So the LA people we hadn't talked to yet. And then about 90 days later, Richard Hogan goes on Art Bell and he says, Art, tomorrow the dam is going to break and all these news places are going to be talking about the Phoenix Lights. And the case investigators were like, no national place will touch this. Somehow he was absolutely right. So I go to work the next day and I'm doing construction work, right? So no mobile phone. I can't talk to nobody till I get home. I get home and I find out there's all these TV shows are on. And I get a call, Jaime Maussan's in town. He wants to come over and interview. So what happened was ABC, CBS, and NBC all decided to play March 13th news stories, and they needed them by 5. So I wasn't available, so they called Bill Hamilton. They couldn't get me on the phone, so they got a hold of Ted Lohman, and he was blind, right? They flew him to New York to be on the Gerardo show. Now, I never been to New York, right? And if I go there, I'm going to check out that house from the Amityville. Fuck it, I'm there, right? So he took my New York trip, right? So if you ever watch that Gerardo show that's on my channel, Ted Lohman's on there. So Ted's like, Tom, they couldn't get a hold of you. So I said, fuck it, and took your seat. Thanks, Ted. So he did Gerardo. But anyway, Jaime is in town when the news blackout ends. He opens up the USA Today, and there's a picture of Tim Lee's boomerang. Remember that?
Uh-huh.
That's when the news blackout broke. So at that time, ABC, CBS, and NBC simultaneously had on like anybody who was available and work from home or something. So we had Mike Fortson, we had Bill Hamilton, we had different people, but you had to get to the news, some local news, and then they uplink that shit nationally. So all went national, but it was like a switch. And I always wonder who controls this switch to turn the news on and off. Like, what then has nothing to do with this. The shootout in Las Vegas was on the news for 5 days, and someone turned the switch, and we don't ever hear about that anymore. And same kind of thing with this war. Somebody can control what the fuck we get to see.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, there's some filter. There's been a filter for some time, for some things at least.
Well, they did. The only news that we heard after March 13th UFO related was Heaven's Gate. Now, since that was death and a mass suicide, they talk about that because it puts UFOs in a bad light. And I thought when that suicide came out, it had happened. Ted Lohman, I was in Tucson, where I think I remember when I hearing about it. I was going on Ted Lohman show with Bill Hamilton, and Ted Lohman had interviewed Marshall Applewhite many times on his show. Wow. And he's dead, and CNN's calling him going, "You got tapes of Marshall Applewhite?" And he's like, "Yeah, I got tons of stupid tapes of him talking shit." And they're like, "That's real valuable. Cool, you sell it to us for like $100." So we're on the show, and Ted's asking us about it, and I'm like, "Fuck, man, what a downer. All those people died. I don't like death." I'm like, "I don't want to talk about this." And I thought this put ufology back 20 years, because the news will say, "Look, kooks get into this and they kill themselves, so stay away." And I thought that was kind of the messaging they put out. And we didn't have that. We had this event that we couldn't get anybody to pay attention to.
Because there wasn't a whole lot of correlation between the Phoenix Lights and that. I thought there would. I thought people would really link them together. I mean, the comet and the suicide and the lights, and I thought there would be a bigger connection with a lot of people, but there wasn't.
Well, the stigma was pretty big back when this happened.
I don't remember it that
big. They would talk about those deaths, but they won't talk about a mass sighting like, "Hey, the UFOs almost invaded." Well, no, don't cover that. "Oh, these people over here are rich and dead." "Oh, well, we'll cover that for a while." So the priorities are screwed up. This could have been a wonderful, magical thing. March 14th could have been the national news and uplink going, "Hey, last night there was a big sighting," and they start hunting down witnesses, but they wouldn't talk about it. Not at all. And it's almost, the stigma is almost gone today, but still somebody controls that news about what the topic is that we'll talk about. I bitch about it on this channel all the time. That news will have us talking about the fucking kiss camera from like some concert or something, whatever the stupid thing is of the day, just to get people by so you can go back to your jobs.
There's got to be a reason for it. Just that it's like herding cattle, just to kind of put the blinders up and not think or something. I don't know what it is, but someone's in charge of it.
Well, I subscribe to George Carlin, the prophet of our generation's Nostradamus, who said they want us smart enough to work the machines, but not smarter to ask any questions. That's what education kind of is. Get you out there, because they need new teachers, new cops, new soldiers, but they don't need new smart people. I don't know. We're go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, they just need just smart enough to pay taxes.
Yeah, and this whole thing with AGI is scary. I still call it the Terminator. They decided they were going to call the Terminator AGI, and instead of it killing us, it's going to kill us financially to come replace all of our jobs by next year. I see so much of this doom. I've kind of checked out. I don't buy it because I don't think consciousness can come from a GPU or a CPU. You can take 10,000 computers and stack that shit in a Starship Enterprise, but it's never going to be alive. It's just still going to be a machine.
I just wonder how they're going to make money when no one has any to spend.
Yes. The suicide, the whole thing with the news, it's crazy. It's like, hey, all your jobs are going to be taken away by next year. Well, fuck, man, then stop. Stop what you're doing. Don't do that. Slow roll that shit down. Not like, well, if we don't do it, China will. Bullshit. We live in a real weird timeline, man.
Boy, things are going fast now. They got the snowman. They're rolling the snowball really fast now. It's got momentum and it's got speed and it's getting big. And now it doesn't slow down.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if Godzilla were to come out, and because we're living in such a weird freaking timeline, right?
I'm kind of glad I'm old.
Not me. I'm kind of the reverse. I wish I was 40 years younger so I could live through the hell that's about to be unleashed upon society of no jobs. And your little robot, your personal C-3PO is smarter than you. It's going to take your job. No one will pay the damn thing.
That'll probably be Logan's Run. Remember that movie?
Oh yeah. I love that as a TV show, but it kind of bombed out.
Yeah, you make it to 30 and that's it.
Well, yeah, I don't know why they didn't remake that, because that's kind of a pretty cool concept if you think about it. To recycle people, because it kind of sucks getting old. When I used to party when I was younger, I would just tell people I'm getting rid of those years when I'll be 90. I don't want to live to be that goddamn old.
Oh my gosh. Oh boy, they just have the tubes in them and someone turn them every 2.5 hours. They'll have AI turning people in bed so the nurses don't have to.
All right, I'm going to switch us into television mode for a second. Let's go check out what's on the live cameras. I think we got Dave in here. So it's kind of piddling around. So 29 years ago, if I had this system out, yes, we are at one, we would have captured everything.
Wow.
This whole system here is a reaction to the Phoenix Lights. That this will never happen again. If you fly over my part of the town, I'm going to get you. My shit will capture some. Now, it may not capture an orb that's, the size of a baseball. But if you're a mile-long ship, I got you. There's no mile-long ship ever flying over this part of the town again without being recorded.
At any elevation, right? What elevation?
Yeah, well, what elevation? That's a good question. My radar camera, this one right here is on top of what was a chimney. My radar camera, if I spin this around, is up approximately, 50 feet or so. And eventually that's going to have a different payload up there. But this can lift, I think, 1,200 pounds. I wouldn't do that because I'd be scared of it snapping off and coming back. But yeah, I have, I think, a total of 13 weatherproof cameras up here. And then I have about 9 different various cinema, night vision cameras, binoculars, 5 different night vision tubes, 5 different thermals, just overlapping stuff. So, I'm looking at South Mountain from my west side, and I can also see Camelback Mountain looking north. I can see the Santans looking south. If I replace this camera that I'm zooming around with on top of that pole, then the area expands into all of Tempe, all of their sky, a little bit of Phoenix. So I just spent whatever the fuck it was required to get this done. And now I have this thing that Ron Olch put out with UFODAP that has this new thing put in Last time I did a show was on OTDIU 2.26a. Now he has 2.26c. He's put out a couple of versions to fix some bugs. So he has a thing now that and I have it installed on the roof. It picks up the aircraft from the sky. It does not use flight radar. It does not use the ADSB website. It uses an antenna, and it comes in to the house. The computer deciphers these aircraft, and then I also have a GPS up there, so it has a position. Then it looks at the camera's GPS position, and it overlays the aircraft if I want on top of whatever I'm looking at. So that's the new upgrade, which is fucking cool, because that's almost military grade shit. Because military grade stuff, they'll look at a target and they can get a friend or foe. They can get like the flight number, the altitude. So Ron Olch has kind of copied that system into a civilian type thing. Now, is it accurate? I don't know, because I'm now that the bugs are worked out, I'm kind of like, is the aircraft exactly over the object, or is it off a ways? Why is it off a ways? So I'm always tinkering with that shit. But
how about south of you? I mean, what do you get down south? Do you get down to Eloy, or I mean, that's pretty far south for you.
No, so I could see mainly South Chandler area. Depends on if got some pine trees in the way. The farthest south that I was able to record was remember the Chinese balloon?
Yeah.
Okay, so about 3 months later, I found another one on the flight radar website, and I went, shit, we got this balloon south of me. And I looked around with the camera, I picked that thing up. Then I went to Google Maps and went, shit, that thing is over by Casa Grande. It's up at 60,000 feet and it's in dead air. And what happened to it is it went up into some thermal pocket that was only 1 or 2 miles an hour, and it got stuck doing circles. So it was stuck in the same spot for a couple of days. So I was filming it with multiple dome cameras, and then I was going, shit, man, this is what this big object looks like 23 miles away. Now there's other objects I've tracked. Some of the better weather balloon type objects, they have GPS in their payloads, and they also have some type of devices that inflate and deflate them so they can take them down at a recovery spot.
Mm-hmm.
So that's about as far south as about maybe 20-something miles. So kind of 20-something miles in a circle.
That's pretty darn good. So did they deflate it, or what? What'd they do to it?
Yeah, I saw some ones up north. They launched 3 of them, one after another, weather balloons, and they actually took them down next to I-17. Because I was like, oh, these are cool. Because I use them like, this is target practice. You know, I want to see if I can't film you from here, I'll jump in my car and go after you. So yeah, I was watching them, and they all went down at the same place. So what's interesting is how the hell I can see, you know, you can control the up and down. I don't know how the hell they were controlling how they always got to land at the same place.
Wow. That's interesting. Did you ever research Dreamy Draw and what went on there about the crash site there?
That I didn't, but Clive Christopher did, because I remember him talking quite a bit about that. So I don't know if he's got a movie out on that or what the hell he's got.
Because I heard about that like 30 some years ago. I heard about that ages ago.
There's I got Dan Starsky here. He's kind of an expert on this stuff too. Dan, do you know anything about Dreamy Draw Ranch? I know Dr. Lynn has talked about it. I know.
Oh, did you?
I think so, because Clive was talking about Dreamy Draw, and I think it was bringing her up in that. What's going on there?
And supposedly they put the dam on top of the crash site.
The dam. Oh, since we're here, why don't you talk for a minute? And I'm going to bring up that crash site for the National UFO Reporting Center.
Okay, for Dreamy Draw. Oh. Yeah, I heard about that. Maybe it was even the 70s or something. I heard about that, and my friends took me out there. And then there's a site out. It's like halfway between here and Sedona. I can find it, And boy, I tell you, it's out in the middle of nowhere, and it sure looks like a crash site. It looks like a V-shaped crack, burn crack right in the middle of the desert. Look, almost like a saucer went into the ground. So it's a sliced V, and even the rocks are burned out in the middle of nowhere. And we went out there back in the 1970s. And I was out there. I haven't been there in probably 10 years. And the rocks still look burnt. Something fell there. And it's out in pasture, maybe like free range cattle. And it's all fenced off, probably to keep the cattle from falling into it. I always wondered what the history of that was. I took pictures of it back in the old film days. I should probably go out there now that I'm digital and take some pictures of that and show it to you. See what went into the ground there. But it's wedge-shaped big crack in the ground, burned.
Okay, this crash story here is saying 23 miles east of Sholo. And for people who don't know Arizona geography, think of Snowflake, Arizona area up north. So let's see, there are 3 people staying at my rural home in Kokancha. I was home around 10 in the evening and enjoyed some self-employment. And 3 of us sat around the kitchen table catching a respective days. One of my guests who faced the window claimed, "Holy shit, did you see that?" And he said he and the other woman had seen a UFO streak by, apparently crashing. They said there was a fire in the object's wake. They first thought they were talking about a comet, but insisting it was a craft of some sort. So they jumped in their Suzuki and they drove over to search for the crash site. They crossed State Highway 61 for a wild ride, an old cattle trail. At the highway, older couple had parked a white van there, and they were staying in the highway, staring off in the field. They asked if they had seen the UFO crash, and they told me, "Yeah, I'm going to go find a crash site." So they said they've been driving westerly on Highway 61 towards Shola, and they saw an object streak by. They also described a trail fire had been reported. They were excited about this. They said there were more room in the Jeep. They went over there. So they get over there and they find some rocks and some canyons. They drove down some cattle trail, found some rocky roads, and driving through there, they saw a greenish glow of the comet overhead. It was nerve-wracking and surrealistic. And they were concerned that they'd rolled a Suzuki. It sounds like a real thing because it's pretty hairy out there. It said it was an oblong egg shape. The color was strange. It was the color of a Caucasian skin with a fading tan. It glowed faintly. The glow was sufficient enough to illuminate the bottom of the canyon. There were 2 pillars, for lack of a better term, in front of the object. I called the front because the proportion was visible to us. These pillars may have been posted on either side, although a doorway was not visible. It was about the size of a barn, typically seen in a small dairy farm in the Midwest. Oddly, there was a helicopter down there in a black pickup. It was a Jake Barber of his time, maybe, with Chuck Norris or something. And they were baffled about how the truck had gotten down there. And yeah, they always seem to know when something crashes. It's like they got red alert. There's one crash. It's like fucking, I guess NORAD does serve a purpose because we're paying them all for nothing, it seems. So I guess they left, and I wonder, somebody must have picked that up if it really did indeed happen. And another story going around the news, the 2 Erics did an interview, Eric Weinstein, Eric Davis. They were paid by, who is like Jesse Michaels, right? And probably I'm thinking $50,000 a piece to get them to talk. And that seemed like, a pretty good story. Eric Davis, like me, can't find any news on what's going on. He doesn't seem to know too much. I don't know if you've seen the interview, but he's asking the other Eric, and the other Eric Davis apparently has been in the program. He is a first-hand witness, not a guy who knows a guy who knows a guy who saw a guy. He's like, I've touched this stuff, right? So they asked him about how many crashes. He said, and this is another number that David Grush would say, the exact number is classified, but it's under 40. So Dave, what does that tell you? How many do we got?
A number, yes.
Well, 30, right?
Yeah.
We got 30, at least 30. So, you know what? Let's play prices right and shit. You're trying to win that bid, and he says 40. Well, you know it's not going to be 20 because he would have said like 30, right? So probably 34, 35. So then he started going, well, you got the Roswell crash, and I think it was mentioned at Magenta. There's been a few that they could talk about, but then you got to speculate to fill in, where did these other 30 come? The Kingman crash? And you were saying 6 from Kingman?
Yeah, that's what I believe it was 6, 5 or 6. I think it was 6.
And then I think Rick Doty said like over 100, but that's Rick Doty. You can't really, you don't use that guy for stock market predictions. So you don't know with that. But yeah, interesting conversation. And Trump could just unwind it all. I think what he's doing is he's saving that card in his pocket for when he's in deep shit. If he gets in deep shit, he whips out the alien card and says, oh, looky here, shiny. Look at it, UFO picture. Now, you won't be talking, because he's a fucking master of changing the news. That guy could, it's like the guy who changes the channel. He's great at that. Let's change the channel. So if they come out with some Epstein stuff, change the channel, UFOs. So that UFO has so much material, he can keep tweaking the Epstein files, you'd think, and say, well, aliens. It sucks we're on a timeline where we need something as fucked up as the Epstein files to get us the alien files.
He'd be pushing out a body on a cart. Yep. But, maybe it's going to be what it's going to take.
Let's see what. There's an old mine in the Dreamy Draw area. Nope, Clive mentioned a crash it because I know Clive has mentioned Dreamy Draw on some of his documentaries. Clive has done like 900 documentaries. In the time we started the show and end it, he will have made another one. He's the fastest producer, UFO producer there is. Gobstucker, thank you again for another $5 super chat.
Wow.
Oh, Jan, how you doing? Just doing a little bit of talking and a little bit of skywatching. Back to tower cam here. It's going to be 106 this week.
What?
Did you hear that?
No. Temperature?
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be 106 this week. So, let's see if I can get that. I can tie this camera to this one. Yeah, that sucks. We could be looking at 9 months of this shit.
Oh my gosh. Start watering the lemon tree.
All right, there we go. A camera while we're talking. Yeah, it's too early to be this hot. So we have a camera looking west. This is the radar camera that's up 50 feet, and incoming is a string of planes from California that will eventually land at Sky Harbor Airport. Yeah, there was a guy. I was going to talk about this next week, but I'll talk about it now. There was a guy who said Trump is going to make an announcement, and he's going to tell us, like on July 7th or something, the anniversary of the Roswell crash. And I saw this. It got retweeted, reposted. It got talked about over and over and over and over and over and over and over. And I saw that, and I thought, fuck, shit. This is a bullshit story. This is... Do people have no bullshit meters? this is another nugget going on bullshit mountain. Because there's not going to be some dude who tells who Trump's talking to, and then some dude just tells some guy in the UK this, okay? So the story collapsed. We don't have to wait till July 7th. It's already over with. The guy came out and said the source burned him, and the source is not returning his hail. He's hailing him like Star Trek. He's not returning the hail. Email, phone call, whatever. So I'm like, shit. So he came out and he put out a statement that said, I've been had. I've been tricked. This didn't work out the way I thought. And he manned up. And, you know, and I got a lot of respect for that. That when you make a mistake, you own your mistake. If you just say, well, what, you know, if you just try and wishy-washy your way around that, I got no fucking respect for you at all. And this guy never heard it before. I found some respect for him for owning up on it. And then I thought, well, you got to burn your contact because he burned you. Because no one ever really heard of this person in ufology until this big announcement with Trump, right? So now you're UFO famous. If you're just going to, there's a couple things he can do here. He can continue on like nothing happened. He can earn some respect and say, I got burned. Here's the person who burned me. And then walk away and go find something else to do for a few years. Get the fuck out of this, you know, because your name will be synonymous with July 7th and the fake Trump announcement. It turns out it was Bob Bigelow. That's his source.
Wow.
So he was talking with Bob Bigelow, and Bob Bigelow said that he was pushing Trump for a soft disclosure, and he was like, not a hard disclosure. And I don't know if I read it all. And Bigelow's like, I don't think we can handle it. So at least something, right? So what that probably means is Bigelow wrote Trump a check because he's a transaction animal. He does things, you know, what do I get it? You give me something, I give you something. So he must have wrote him out $1 million. And I was bitching a couple podcasts back, we need a lobbyist. Well, fuck. How is that not a lobbyist, right? So what that tells me is Bob Bigelow is still in this. He has, you know, he sold Skinwalker Ranch to Brandon Frugal, but he still has the bug because ufology is almost uncurable once you get stuck in here.
Wow, isn't that amazing?
So yeah, it's another kind of big story floating around. Trump is not making an announcement on that, at least. But there's still people saying, yep, he has that card, you know. The war goes bad, UFOs. Epstein, UFOs, you know. Bomb goes off, UFOs. So you can always pull that.
Well, that's a good card to have, though. I can understand him keeping that. Because he's always been in trouble. So, you know, it's smart to have a good card up your sleeve. It's the magician's pretty assistant, you know, so that you don't see the magician doing the trick. It's you're looking at the assistant, not the magician. So that's a good one to have because he may need it. He may need an alien body to show.
Every president could have done this, and all of them refused. Yeah. So I've said this before, I don't have no respect for any of them. I grew up in, you know, we've been at war almost every year since I've been alive, and no one really does anything with our tax money. It's to burn it in the Middle East and burn it on weapons instead of having, because I wanted to be an astronaut. I wanted to go into the Apollo mission, go to the moon, because when I grew up, that was on TV, and then that got canceled. I'm like, fuck, now I got stuck on this planet, do construction work, right? Ended up getting into computers, but I wanted to go to the moon. I wanted to go to interplanetary, and got stuck here. So every president that we've had since we've had them had the opportunity to come out and release this, and every one of them caved.
I mean, I wonder if lately, if any of them do have that information. They say that since Eisenhower none of they've all been separated from that information. I mean, who knows? But I remember Barry Goldwater, who was our governor. He ran for president. What was it, against Kennedy? And he was really big on trying to get disclosure on UFOs. That was back in the 70s and early 80s here in Arizona.
Wasn't he the one who said, I want to get inside that room? And somebody said, trying to remember, they said, don't you ever talk about that again? That was Goldwater?
I think that was Barry. He was big. He was adamant and very vocal about it. Here in Arizona, we were very proud of him. He stood up. I wonder whatever happened to all his files. Supposedly he had some good stuff.
Yeah. I'm just looking here. Yeah, he was before my time.
Right.
But yeah, I've heard about his legacy and whatnot.
He used to work with his wife, so I would hear a lot about it, and he would go public about it, about UFOs. But of course, that's when the Roswell stuff was hitting again. Back around 1980, it was like all that stuff was coming out because, it had been buried. They had buried it until finally all these old people were hitting their deathbeds, and stuff started coming out again.
Yeah, I'm surprised we don't have more deathbed confessions, because I do my confession every Friday night on the show. I don't hide anything. Yeah. I mean, when I eventually go missing and they say, hey, there was a crazy motherfucker in Chandler was watching the whole town. He's senile. He left the house without his glasses, and we're looking for him. I fucking told you everything. I don't have any more secrets.
We know your story, and they know my story.
Yeah, they know your story now. Yours is out there. It's unbelievable that your dad and your mom argued over aliens and UFOs and shit. That must have been. I imagine that was probably what his coworkers did too. You go to the grocery store, you do your stuff, you act like everything's normal, and then it's like, nope, I work with aliens. You guys have no idea, and I can't talk about none of it.
What a pressure that must have been. I feel so bad for my dad. I wished he could have opened up. And I could tell, even as a kid, how heavy this was on him. I wonder what it all was. I wonder what all he knew.
So your dad definitely led a secret life.
Yeah. And I don't think he was high ranking. I don't think.
What did he do? What was his specialty in the military? You remember?
I never asked. I remember seeing pictures of him in his uniform and Air Force and things on his uniform, and he just kept it away. He just didn't talk about it. I don't know.
Okay, what about hobbies? What kind of was your dad a mechanical guy, electrical guy?
Yes,
worked on cars
mechanical,
and things.
Baseball, but he could tinker. He could build anything. He loved electronics. So he became a school teacher. Very educated. My dad was also a medium in a spiritualist church. So I don't know.
I have one of these colored mouses.
But I wonder about other guys. What about all these other people? How many other people were burdened, especially with gag orders, or still are?
I think all of them. I think they just threatened them. Look, we'll kill you. We will.
And your family.
Yeah, well, that's very fucked up. The U.S. only kills you. The Mossad, they get the whole fucking family. So maybe it's the Mossad will get your family. They'll just kill you. But whoever I'd be like, yeah, bro. Whoever fuck. How did they pull that off without looking? Like if this guy was missing, his whole family's gone. That would look real bad then. Versus just this guy, and this guy missing. He's like the Michael Ironside cliche. He knows too much. You just can't have this guy walking around. What the hell was he doing talking to serial brand name ufologists to begin with? That's probably a big no-no. They're saying, look, you can't talk about this, and for fuck's sake, don't go on Joe Rogan, and don't do podcasts. Don't have any buddies who are UFO people. Stick within the military,
Right.
Military culture or something like that. But it's obvious that we have a government within a government, and that government within a government is the one that runs this whole UFO program, the classification system, the weaponization of it, the seeding of it. I mean, this stuff gets shipped. The remains periodically go to Sandia National Labs, Lawrence Livermore. Apparently, they've never figured it out. According to Eric Davis, from his interview, they don't know anything about it. So if you extrapolate out of that, that means we don't have the ARVs, the alien reproduction vehicles. There's reports that some UFOs were abandoned with the keys in them. Well, we still can't work them, according to Eric Davis, that we have made, according to him, no progress in 70 years with this material, which is, it depends on what he means by progress. Is he mean progress flying around in one of these, or progress? We ripped off fiber optics, we ripped off Velcro, night vision, ripped off maybe titanium or any type of metal type of things from it. You'd think we could at least steal something from it and come out with a Temu UFO.
Well, hopefully we haven't broken them.
Well, if you believe Bob Lazar, he said one of them in the hangar had a hole through the bottom, and they had shot through it. Now, he didn't know who shot through it, but in my brain, it was another alien shot through it, because if they can't even get inside of them and they're impenetrable, then you're not shooting a hole through the bottom that comes out the top, because then you can get inside. So I'm thinking some of these UFOs might be the alien on alien war that we don't even know about. That woodcut from 1561.
Yeah.
Where those black spheres, white spheres, crosses, and cigars were battling each other. And in the woodcut, some of them crashed. So there we have a hell of a story on one piece of wood. UFOs don't like each other. They shoot at each other. They crash. Starts fire, right? And what the fuck happened to those UFOs? Where are those? Are those buried in Germany? Anybody think about that?
Or did they retrieve them and hide them, or who knows? Yeah, I wondered about that. They need to be digging wherever that was.
Yeah, there could be archaeological UFOs that are all over the place. You would think at this point, with Google Earth and the NSA, that the National Reconnaissance Organization would have people that just sit there and they look at maps of the United States, and they look at Greenland, they look at Antarctica and all over northern Canada and whatnot, and they go, these are spots that a UFO could have crashed thousands of years ago. Let's use LIDAR, ground penetrating radar, all kinds of high-end optics that can see through the snow and ground and find them and go in there and get them before China does.
If they're still metal. Yeah, unless they self-destruct, or I wonder if they're, or are they living? I've heard, some of them think that they're living tissue. I don't know.
These are people watching. These are planes coming in from Sky Harbor, and these are things that I will train UFODAP camera on and say, I know that flight number because I can get it on flight radar. Now I want to see if UFODAP matches that flight number. So that's testing that I'm doing with Ron Ulch's UFODAP system, is trying to do verification as aircraft stuff works like that. But yeah, it's a string. These are planes coming in from California. They're going to fly over my head, and they're going to do a 180 circle, and they're going to land on the east side of Sky Harbor Airport. And they have waves of them. They go in 7 in the morning, and then usually about 11 o'clock, and then we have a rush from 5 to 7, And then we have the incoming night stuff now. And yeah, the clock's off on that guy. If they're UFOs, I'm going to stop what I'm doing. I'm going to fucking spin all the cameras up on them. And I got that radar sitting over there, so I could hit some buttons and turn that puppy on. It's waiting for its purpose, but it's not. Technically, it's broken. If you catch my drift, it's broken. And it doesn't work until it needs to work. So we got a kind of double-sided talk. So yeah, what do we got now? So it's 8:30 past. Let's go. Let's look at what this guy is. That's flashing. That's an aircraft. This new system that Ron Olch has. I hope the Tedesco brothers use this stuff. They use a lot of crossover gear that we use. But like with New Jersey, when these drones are flying around, you can point the stuff at them. And you should be able to ID it right on the spot. You know, and the whole situation that just happened the last year and a half is really weird. We had these drones over New Jersey. The government didn't care, right? We had them then over England. They didn't care. They could not, I guess, identify them, chase them, or do anything. They sent up helicopters to chase after them. The lights of the drones went off. They went dark. They could not find out where they came from, allegedly, or where they went to on radar. That's bullshit because the military radar is going to have all that, right? NORAD is going to have all that. So they're sitting here going, Keystone Cops, right? I'm over here in my corner going, fuck, man, on March 13th, whatever flew over could have been dropping bombs. And our government's like, well, I don't know. The base commander from Luke Air Force Base didn't even call Davis Monthan's Air Force Base commander and say, hey, were you training? Did you drop any flares? Months and months and months and months went by. They didn't even talk. So we have military base commanders from major cities that don't communicate. They didn't back in 99. Probably don't now. We're probably just as fucked up and discombobulated, right? So now we got this war situation on. And drones, they're paying really, really good attention to any drone, right? All of a sudden it matters. Welcome to the fucking club, governments. Ufologists been talking about this for a while. What is flying over us? They didn't care. And now we got an undeclared battle going on, and these drones are going to fuck shit up. And the Ukraine was trying to tell us, look, United States, you have to get prepared for this. And you are not prepared because these things will come in waves and waves and waves, and you can't shoot them down. What are you going to shoot them down with? So this puts us in an awkward dilemma that we have to hook up AI to weapon systems. Everything in the Terminator movies that warned us not to do, we have to do. Because the incoming swarms of drones can happen so fast that no human can visually shoot them down, that it's going to be like that movie, The Last Starfighter, where it's just happening so fast, you need AI to pinpoint and shoot all that shit down. So inevitably, we're going to have to turn over one of these AI engines to run these military counter defense systems against the drones. And the United States is playing catch up to this shit. Right, we got to, because these other countries been at war with drones, and now it's a thing. So if like the drones were to fly over New Jersey again, would they ignore? Do you think all hell would break loose with law enforcement, this time? Because they ignored them last year. And now they're telling the FBI, is like, hey, you're going to get hit. Watch out.
And drones that can reload again and again and again and again. So much cheaper in the old days when they had to do a missile and it blew up. Then you have to start all over rebuilding the whole weapon. Drones can return and reload.
Well, yeah, we better hope that whatever the hell is going on in the Middle East is kind of contained over there, because if it spreads over here and these things are, drones flying around and hitting buildings, I I don't know, couple of months, I just have this weird vibe. This weird vibe, like we're in this precursor time and something's going to happen. And we're on the cusp of something that's going to happen. And then it's kind of like March 13th. Then we're going to be talking about after that time. I don't know what it is. But it just seems like something is and I'm not talking UFO. I'm thinking something bad probably is going to happen. Because the way shit's going, ain't something good's going to happen. Lucky Charms isn't coming with this pot of fucking of gold, and say, here's a box of food and a box of gold. That's not happening. We're living in a bad timeline where your worst nightmares are coming true. And everyone kind of wants to wake up from this shit.
Well, if it happens around Chandler, you'll probably be one of the first to see it.
Or the phone will start ringing. Back when we were doing that hunt for that red object Bubba that was coming around from 99 to 2004, my phone would ring. We had a system that I set up with people in the surrounding area that I would, if anything happens, first you call this house. If I'm not already recording, I'll drag everything out and start recording. But then my wife would have a list of like 20 people, and these people wanted to be on this list. And she would call them and just say, Bubba's up, hang up. Bubba's up, hang up. Or she would give them some basic directions of where to look, and that was it. And then move on to the next person. After she went down this list, after a while, we had eyes all over this thing and filming it, and we were able to triangulate where it was. And that was a fun UFO to hunt, because I got to do almost everything I wanted. I drove after it. I filmed it with a telescope. I filmed it with stereo cameras. I drove under it twice. I tried to charter an aircraft from Chandler Airport after it. They kicked me out. They didn't want my money. I told the dude, we'll just fly up to it until the power goes out. And he's like, get the fuck out of here. I'm like, no, really. The power comes back on after you get away from the UFO. If it's not a UFO, we shouldn't have any issue, right? But if it's a UFO and the power goes, they don't kill people, right? The UFOs usually don't kill anybody. So if I were to crash, I'd make the news, right? And say, hey, UFO's in the sky, plane went up to film it, lost power. Whatever it took to study the damn thing.
So whatever happened?
With the Bubba thing, 9/11 happened. That was one thing. The thing was coming out 3 times every month. So it would never come out on Sundays and I think Mondays, which was told me it was probably human related. Somebody probably worked Sundays and Mondays. And anyway, this thing would come out 3 times a month. So I started writing down in a spreadsheet when it would come out. And then I would get to the point that if it only came out once and we're getting to the end of the month, it owes us 2 sightings, and it paid. It always did, like the 3 times a month. So I would just stake out those nights, and it was easy because it would come out right after the sun went down. So you knew like within 40 minutes, if it didn't show up, it wasn't showing up at all. You could pack it in, go watch your football and drink your beer, right? So it was easy to hunt. It was just walk out the backyard and hunt it. 9/11 happened. And then all of a sudden we had these aircraft patrolling the skies, right? And I'm like, let's see if it comes out now. It stopped. And then all of us hunting it went, see, this is a person behind this. It's because if you come out now, you're getting intercepted by F-15s from Luke. It stopped. Then it came back out a little bit later. I can't remember I can look up the dates, but it came back out more times. It started the cycle again. There was no intercepts at that point. That was when I said, I'll intercept it. I'm going to go charter a plane. And they were all for chartering the plane. They're like, it's $500. And I was telling him we're just going to fly around. And I was focusing on like the end of the month because I knew it was going to show up. So it was a gamble because, you know, I was a very, very paycheck to paycheck. So $500 was a hell of a lot of money. It was a gamble for me to put on a credit card and then hope it showed up. They were all for doing it until I told them it was a UFO. And then he said, your money's no good here, man. We don't want this type of business. Get out of here. Leave. And they told me, get out of here. And they said, no, we're going to tell everyone in this airport about you, and no one will have anything to do with you. So the next night, nothing happens. The night after that, let's see, a red object shows up, flashing, flying around. What was it? A Cessna imitating Bubba. I have video of that. So something went around to imitate it, to take credit for it. So the experts that were watching it were like, that ain't Bubba. That's a plane. But the people who willy-nilly'd in Chandler, Gilbert, they might have went, oh, it was just a plane, you know? So it was weird, and it was a lot of fun to hunt it, but that'll probably never happen again where I have 30 opportunities to go after something.
Wow.
But in the end, the guy who started the sighting was the guy who ended the sighting. He's also a subscriber on the channel. His name is Armando Laurel. He drops in. I know he's checked out at least a little bit of this tonight. So anyway, Armando worked at News 10, Channel 10. So he was the morning director. So he was like, I think that's what his job was. So he was like, and if I get it wrong, he'll fucking text me. Tom, you got that wrong. So he was like in charge of Channel 10 in the morning, Fox 10. And all those guys were UFO nuts. All those guys that worked there, like he was, the camera guys were, the helicopter guys were, all these guys were into UFO stories. Not as deep as me, but they were at least had the interest. So anyway, he was one of the first people who spotted Bubba, and he saw it looking through binoculars. What he saw was a black triangle that was somewhat transparent. And in the middle of the black triangle was a red light that was pulsing. And he said the triangle wasn't, it wasn't Phoenix Light huge, but was, sizable, maybe size of a car or something. So he saw this triangle and it disappeared. So that's what we thought Bubba was. In the end, he saw Bubba with a telescope, and he said it was a road flare that was held up by a bunch of black balloons. So somebody was using a pyrotechnic to create this Bubba thing. Was Bubba always a road flare? I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. I can't give you 100%. Actually, I can maybe give you an estimation, maybe a certain percentage. But if it was a real UFO, somebody came along and poisoned it. It's called poisoning the well, where somebody then releases shit into the air, and then it's shit. I remember there was a guy, and it's buried in YouTube, it's still there, who came out and took credit for not only Bubba in 2008. He said, I also am responsible for the Phoenix Lights. He said that he put up a bunch of road flares and balloons, and that's what I taped at 10. And I thought, I don't know about me, but this motherfucker's crazy. Because what happened at 10 p.m. wasn't road flares and balloons that this guy put up. This guy's just looking for attention. And they wouldn't show his face because what he was doing was illegal. You can't put that stuff up in the sky and, not get in trouble. Like those lanterns, those Chinese lanterns are illegal. So I'm pretty sure putting road flares up is too.
Oh, it'd be starting fires, and it wouldn't have been that big of a light to have seen it that far away.
Yeah, you're not going to see no Chinese lanterns from Phoenix if they're down at the Barry Goldwater range.
There would have had to have been quite a few of them.
Oh, okay. He's mentioning church. Then let's see. There was a. Then after the Phoenix Lights, there was a guy who came up with a website who said he had the secrets of the Phoenix Lights. Some people might remember this, some people won't. This guy said he was a pastor from a church, and somebody came into the church with a box. And in this box was a secret, and he will reveal the secret on a coming date. His website, and this is going to date it, it was done in Flash. And Flash was a technology that came and went through the 90s. And he had a very pretty Flash website. So he had some skills. He said he was a priest. What he didn't have skills was masking the ownership of the website. So I did a who is on his website, and his name comes up, and his address and his phone number of this priest. And so I didn't do anything. The time came and went. He didn't reveal the secret. And then he kept pushing the date back, trying to keep interest, right? So I called the guy up. And he's like, I figure he's going to know who I am. He's talking about the Phoenix Lights, and I shot video of it, right? How does he fucking not know who I am when I got UFOvideo.com and I have up all the videos of that? So I called this guy, and he's, I guess, I'm going to say from Saudi Arabia, something like that. He's fucking pissed. How did you get this number? I said, who is? Who is? He didn't understand. And I said, you can make a nice website, but you don't know what whois.net is? That's where you can look up who owns the domain. So he didn't mask himself, so he gave himself away. And he's like, he's thinking, I said, I know where you live. I live right down the street. Do you want to meet? I was real friendly with him. I wanted to find out what was in this goddamn box. There was no box. It was a hoax. This guy put up a website, and he told me off in the funniest ways. He did not know how to cuss. He said, I don't like you, Mr. King. You know what? I'm going to give you this. How about try eat shit? How about that, Mr. King? Try eat shit. And I'm laughing, going, this is fucking amazing, man. Who the hell comes up with try eat shit? He goes, and I will give you another one. I will call you a Mr. Motherfucker. How about a try eat shit, Mr. Motherfucker? And I'm like, this is what Eddie Murphy says when people tell him off in other countries. And I'm like, continue, my friend. And then I'm egging him on and saying, I will try a dirty motherfucker for you and try eat shit, Mr. King, you dirty motherfucker. And he's like, dude, if you think I'm insulted, this is some funny shit. Man, we got to meet. I've never seen a person cuss like try eat shit. How in the hell do you know how to do Flash, but you can't pronounce any good English? So anyway, that was a priest who owned a website. It's probably on the Wayback Machine. There was a lot of stuff involved in the Phoenix Lights along the way. But I don't know if you ever heard of the priest story. That was the priest. It's a Middle Eastern guy, right? Maybe India. And
what kind of a priest was he?
He wasn't a priest. It was a story just made up. It was a whole made up story. I don't know what he was trying to sell, but later I didn't try eating the shit. But I posted on my website, yeah, that site's a hoax. There's no box. So I gave him something to be. I don't know what his objective was. What did he think he was going to accomplish? Because he had a bunch of people going, hey, did you hear about this priest? He was like saying he had the smoking gun. Like he knows what the answer to your question. What is it that you saw that night? He had it in this box. There's another question I had in the chat. Did any other videos come up? Michael Tanner talked to like between 500 and 700 people. I think Francis Barwood did too. I had heard that there was always rumors of a new video coming out of the boomerang. There was one that was apparently shot up by Prescott, that somebody had it up north. It never came out. And then we had Richard Motzer. Richard Motzer said he had, I think, 7 videos from 10 p.m. He said he had videos that were shot in Casa Grande and I'm trying to think south of Buckeye. And he said these were on the other side of the Estrella Mountains that show even more lights than we seen. I think he said there were 10 or 11 lights in these videos, and they show columns of smoke and they're flares. And he had given them to his partner in crime, Cal Korff, and they were going to put this out and debunk the 10 p.m. And we're like, let's see it. Let's see it. Never came out. So I think that was a fake card he tried to pull in his pocket, because if he had those videos, he would have put them out. He would have put them out because he wanted to. He didn't like me. He didn't like me or Bill Hamilton. So he wanted to do any damage that he could. So I'm thinking they just made that up. And Cal Korff, it's like he didn't say it either. So apparently he had the videos. Where are the videos? These people never put out the videos. They're just these people who debunkers. They never call the witnesses. You probably never talked to any of them. But they'll tell you what you saw was A-10s in formation.
That's it. Oh my God, I hear all this stuff. All this stuff. They know exactly what I saw, and it's like, no, that wasn't it, honestly. It's like, well, then they would have like burned me up with their jets. I would have caught on fire, and that would have been the end of me.
Well, 5 A-10 jets flying at 30 feet, no one's going to mistake them for alien spacecraft at all. It's insulting to all the witnesses to say, look, I wasn't there, but I know what you saw. And they're politely calling you a dumbass, that you don't know what you're looking at. You're so stupid you mistake some very loud planes for a spaceship from another planet, and it wasn't a mile long. It was a refueling operation. Come on, man.
And then if they text you, they end it in LOL, and it's just like, don't even respond. Yeah.
Well, Mitch Stanley's story grew. First, it was him. He looked through the telescope. Then it was him and a friend. And the last time I heard it, it was him and 2 other friends. So other mysterious friends were there with him. What the fuck was he doing sitting around 29 years ago with 3 buddies in his backyard looking up in the sky at Orion or something? It doesn't make any sense. And he did not have the closest look of it because he's looking through a telescope. People like you had the closest look. People like Tim Lee saw it a lot closer.
Absolutely. I don't know.
Well, I'm going to wrap up. We've been on for a long time talking. The voice is getting hoarse. I think covered quite a bit of material.
Is there people still on?
There's still a dozen watching. We got people in other countries watching, so it's Saturday over there.
Oh.
Watching on Saturday afternoon. But they wanted another hour. They got another hour. Inside backstage stories and whatnot. Dave, you've been a hell of a guest. This was a privilege to have you on, to listen to your stories. I want to thank you for telling me a story about your parents. That really hits deep. It makes a lot more sense to what happened to you. It looks like UFOs are a generational thing, even in your family before UFOs were a thing. I guess your family line has been seeing them before the Kenneth Arnold.
Right. I mean, my grandfather, 1919. And he went to the paper with it. He went to the newspaper. Good for him.
Did you ever try and track that down?
I got to find that. I know it was Danfield or Mount Sterling, Ohio. And I wonder what city would do the newspaper there. And I know it was 1919. I should try to look up where that would be. And it was only a couple lines. I remember he cut it out, and God knows where it went and what family member got it. But I would love to have that.
That's historical shit, man. That'd be probably one hell of a scavenger hunt to go through that and to look through maybe microfiche things that aren't Googleable or searchable. There's a whole world of stuff the LLMs don't have access to.
And he said it was cigar shaped. I remember that. I think that was in the newspaper clipping. And then he said it zipped off. It went quick. So it wasn't like just a dirigible. I mean, what they have back in 1919. Did they have dirigibles then?
Well, yeah. Back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, there were sightings of Zeppelin type of blimps, but these predate. I'm trying to remember my timeline here because I'm going from books as a little kid. These predate us having them. So these were seen in the sky before humans invented them.
Wow.
So, but people say UFOs seem to change with pop culture as we change, like they change. It's like, what are they going to say? You saw what you saw because of Star Wars and the Star Destroyer? You know, because now we have big ships or whatever, or sci-fi. I don't know, but yeah, that's interesting. Grandfather with a cigar, your dad,
and it zipped away. So I mean, dirigibles didn't zip.
No blimps. The people who there was another there's a certain crowd of debunkers that think that what happened at 8:30 was a stealth blimp. Well, no, it wasn't. The company that makes these things, and it's not a blimp at all. They have no propulsion system. They go up straight up in the sky. They do not go across one state in the Southwest. So the thing is at the mercy of the wind. We know that object from 8:30 went from Prescott to Paulden in 1 minute, went 1,600 miles an hour, and then it slowed down to 35 miles an hour. Then it sped up to Phoenix and slowed down to 35 miles an hour, and then sped up again. Do the math of how fast from 90 minutes it went down the whole state and back. There's no way in hell anything that's flying in the wind from even hang glider, or not hang gliders, but ultralights, they couldn't even do that.
No.
There's a lot of acceleration and deceleration with that object. So we thought about that. We thought about, what could it be, a stealth blimp? And then eventually some stories come in. It's like, no, it wasn't that, because it seemed like it, you know, from the gliding,
sure,
but and the size. But again, you would need a propulsion system in there. What's the glowing stuff? I mean, when you start listening to different witnesses, then the whole conventional part of what this was falls apart. If you know, or you're going with the midget and Richard Ramirez. You're going down that fucking avenue. But us investigators, we didn't go with that midget. We went with you guys. I believe your story. I believe what you're telling me. I don't believe the kid with the Dobsonian telescope, Miss Stanley. I believe you.
And I can tell you for sure, I have no idea how it flew. I have no idea. But it did. You know, I don't know what propulsion it used, but it wasn't any propulsion that I've ever seen. It didn't blow. There was no dust to my eyes. You know, any jet that would have something red hot coming out of it, that would have knocked me back. I would have gone back, 30 feet. I would have been flying back, away from something blasting like that. No, not this thing. And I remember the next day, I kept looking at my face, and my sunburned, I have radiation burn, and nothing, absolutely nothing.
Did you ever get a bunch of mashed potatoes and build up a big pile? You ever try that?
I should. If I got mashed potatoes, I'd eat them. No.
Yeah, I love fucking mashed potato. There's no way I could make a big pile without eating half of it, right?
That would have been interesting, but who knows
what it was. Steven Spielberg did a podcast today and a talk. He came out and he said he doesn't have any more information about what's going on than any of us do. So he kind of popped the balloon of the conspiracy that the government whispers all this stuff into his ear. And he's a filmmaker, but he fucking keeps it secret, right? Because if you saw the new trailer, there's a newer, longer trailer for his Disclosure Day coming out. And in this shows a film clapper, and it shows Roswell, and it shows like just a couple seconds of the Roswell stuff. And now there's already, to take place of the UK guy in the Trump story, which was added to Bullshit Mountain and not on the Evidence Mountain, more stuff is going on Bullshit Mountain. The new stuff is someone slipped him an actual piece of the Roswell footage, and he gets to put it in a movie and make money off of it. And I'm like, nope, that's on Bullshit Mountain. My bullshit meter is fucking fine-tuned, you know. But yeah, so you might be hearing about that, but Steven came out and said, I don't have any more information than the rest of you guys. And I'm thinking, oh, fuck. Man, you should have said that after I paid for the tickets and went to watch it, you know? Because, you know, hype the fuck out of this thing. Get people back, save movie theaters, make $1 billion off this.
But he might have that intuition. Maybe they didn't whisper it in his ear, but he might have that intuition and be picking it up from another source in another way.
And then remember that yeah, you're right. He's a solid filmmaker. He's a master, like Jim Cameron, when it comes to directing. Now, there was supposed to be another movie based on like a David Grush type person, that Jerry Bruckheimer and those people, but I haven't heard any movement on that. With at least we know the Disclosure Day movie, that's shot, done, it's coming out. But I don't know about this other Bruckheimer deal.
I haven't heard. I look forward to it, though. It'll be interesting to see what comes out.
Yeah, we're in a fucked situation where they got a government within a government. We know there's some kind of secret thing is running us. And instead of Princess Leia saying, help me, Obi-Wan, it's help me, Epstein, you're our only hope. I mean, unless some shit comes out, we're not going to get the UFO card playing.
Well, you know, and who knows, maybe England, maybe all the royalty in England will start spilling the beans. Maybe it'll come from another government, you know, and maybe if ours just won't, maybe somebody else's will. You know, we don't have to just rely on the United States government. Maybe someone else will do it.
Well, Eric Davis said we haven't made any progress, but maybe progress is classified, and he can't say the word progress. But if we haven't made any progress, see, my theory is the Chinese would make progress because our military-industrial complex is siloed off. So if we gave a part to Lockheed and they figured it out, they're not getting on the phone with the CEO of Raytheon going, hey, guess what? We figured out how to get inside the craft. He'd be like, fuck you, we got inside first. Or we figured out this. None of them are sharing anything. They're going to go patent it. Then they're going to get the patent, hopefully there in their name. They're thinking about money. But the military-industrial complex in China is entirely different. So if one component figures it out, they all work for Mother China. They're going to call their Chinese Raytheon and say, hey, we figured out this stuff. So they will work and mesh their silos together. And that alone fucks up how our system would work. Like, how can we figure this out before them if we got this stupidity of overclassification and siloing all this stuff? The best thing we can do is put it, have a president put it out there to say, fuck it, I'm going to roll the dice. Aliens are real to some degree. Probably not talk about that interdimensional stuff, and at least say, hey, we got these grays. Roswell happened. We had crooked governments 70 years ago, but we're going to fix this shit. We got to start over, burn this corrupt shit down, and come out with something clean.
Or else, you know, our craft's going to crash in a massively public place in front of,
yeah,
you know, 100.
Maybe not crash. One of them shoot another one down, and it crashes in a city.
In Las Vegas or something, you know, with thousands of people with lots of cameras, or in Tokyo where everybody's got a camera or something. I mean,
well, Yeah, even if we got cameras, though, it's going to be in a blackout, man. It's going to be a certain, information blackout. They're just not going to broadcast it. It would have to be a craft that we get to before Jake Barber and his crew get to. Yeah. With his chopper. Me and Dan will get to it with our chopper first.
Chandler needs to crash in Chandler by your house.
Fuck that. Over Gil, I don't want my front yard fucked up. Gilbert, that's rich. They could afford a crash, and then I'll come over and film it. I don't want nobody to crash, really. I just want the secrets to come out, man. All right, I'm going to let you have the last word, and then we're going to wrap.
That's it. Thank you so much for having me on. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Hope you enjoyed this evening. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for coming. We'll see you guys next time with 4K Skywatching.